And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Prince Charles is here. Coming up on the program today, excited to meet Matt Shaw, Maryland baseball star. The Terps come to UMBC tonight. Appreciate them traveling throughout the state of Maryland over the years. They're playing at UMBC, and Matt Shaw is having an unbelievable season. I mean, he's getting on base at like an over 460 clip. Hitting something like 340, 350, something in that range. He is projected to go in the first round of the MLB draft. Thought of as probably a top 20 player in this draft. Maybe he could be. I know the last thing the Orioles really need right now is another infield prospect, but never hurts to have more good baseball players. Maybe he could be in the mix for the Birds. We'll talk to Matt Shaw a little bit later on in the program. Also, it's Tuesday, so our weekly conversation with Patrick Stevens today, and in a few minutes, we're going to catch up with Towson AD, Athletic Director Steve Eigenbrot. They announced a new NIL Collective, so we'll have him tell us about that here in a bit. That's coming up. We start today with a Lamar-O-Meter update, and not a lot to say. Lamar-O-Meter is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. This one can be quick. The only thing that you can even kind of suggest is tied into Lamar is obviously the fact that the Aaron Rodgers deal got done yesterday. So that sort of outside scenario where what if that were to fall apart and the Jets would be sitting there desperate, having gone all in, put all of their eggs in one basket, which as has been pointed out, we were actually talking about this on the radio show on Sunday. Why wouldn't you put all of your eggs in one basket? Imagine the absurdity of trying to carry so many different baskets with all of your different eggs. It doesn't make sense. It's nonsense. Yes, you put all of your eggs in one basket so that you can carry all of your eggs together. What are we doing here? What is that?
And you can keep account for all your eggs.
Yes, exactly right. This is insanity. What are we talking about? The point being that there was maybe some scenario that existed by which the Jets would, Aaron Rodgers would wake up today and be like, nah, I changed my mind. I don't want to be there. And then at that point, maybe the Jets would suddenly say, well, crap, we desperately need a quarterback. We feel like we've drafted well. We've got a good team around him. We need it. Hell, there's only one other guy available. Let's spin around and offer something crazy for Lamar Jackson. So the fact that that goes off the table does certainly – it doesn't move it a lot because I never thought it was likely. It always seemed like Aaron Rodgers was going to be the Jets quarterback. But from – well, that moved. I don't know. That moved again.
Did it move?
So essentially, yeah, it moved. It was at
92 yesterday.
94 is the number, so I don't know how we reflect. That's about what I can do for 94. 94% is the number, adding in the fact that the Aaron Rodgers deal got done. I think the Packers did pretty well on the Aaron Rodgers deal. The possibility that they can get a first-round pick is remarkable. The fact they're swapping, first-round picks this year is kind of irrelevant. It's like a move of two picks, so who cares about that? They get a second-round pick for sure, and the possibility of adding a first-round pick next year as long as Aaron Rodgers actually plays this season, despite the fact that nobody has any idea how long Aaron Rodgers is going to end up playing in New York, how good he's going to be. I think the Packers did about as well as they could, given the circumstances and the fact that Aaron Rodgers was done there and they had decided to move on to Jordan Love. Will it ultimately be the right decision? Who knows? Who knows? Does it justify their failures if Jordan Love ends up being a quality quarterback? Does it justify how they failed to put the right pieces around Aaron Rodgers in the late stages of his career? No, it doesn't do that. Nah, yet it was laughable that this was a pick they ever made. Now, I get it. Their backs are kind of against the wall. They've got to know now whether or not Jordan Love is capable of playing in this league, and we don't know that. There's no way. I know there are people that sort of like the people that love Jordan Love to begin with, no pun intended, will all sit back and say, well, I still really like the Packers because I like Jordan Love. But they don't know. They're just telling you something. This is where I should be better at this because this is my business and I should appreciate it. Nobody has an effing clue whether Jordan Love is going to be good or not. No one does. Anyone trying to suggest that they know is talking out of their ass. And even if they're right, they were still talking out of their ass. But I get it. The Packers kind of have to find out because they did make this investment. And it was insane. And you can't change any of that now. But I do kind of understand. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't committing to you beyond, next year or whatever it was, then I get it. At some point, you've got to figure out whether or not your next guy can play quarterback. So we'll figure that out. And whether the Jets made the right decision, if I was a Jets fan, it was kind of stunning to me talking to, Mike Greenberg and my old buddy Rami, who used to work at The Fan, that are the Jets fans that I know. And I don't even really know Mike Greenberg. We just happen to have him on the show. I was blown away by the idea. And I think part of it, admittedly, was because it was in motion, they accepted it was happening. But if I was a Jets fan, I would honestly be furious that it was Aaron Rodgers and not Lamar Jackson. Why do this for someone that may or may not be playing more than another year's worth of football? Why tie yourself to we're all in one moment instead of trying to create an actual window for competition for 5 to 7 years? Now, I get it. Tom Brady played much further than anybody expected him to play. Maybe there's some world where Aaron Rodgers still has a few more years in him. But to assume it, I think, is crazy. And when there was another option perhaps on the table, and I get it, part of the problem is that a lot of teams probably just didn't believe that there was any world in which Lamar Jackson was going to end up leaving Baltimore, so it wasn't worth messing around with. But as a fan, I would want to have known that they explored that possibility before pivoting towards a short-term option. If I was a Jets fan, I would want to know that you absolutely, went as far as you could to get the answer on whether or not Lamar Jackson could be a possibility. And if you did, and you said, look, guys, they're not actually trading him. He's their quarterback. He's not going anywhere. We tried. Then okay, all good. Backup plan, Aaron Rodgers. Get it. But I would want to know first that you tried the better option instead of just going with the short-term kind of Brett Favre part deux option that you ended up going with. But not my concern, obviously, because I am not a New York Jets fan.
That does seem like the likely scenario of what played out. I mean, Joe Douglas obviously still has strong relationships.
You have no idea. You say it sounds like you have no clue if that played out or not. You have no idea. You're now talking out of your ass. You're just saying something.
I mean, it's very likely that
no, it's possible. You have you say to say something is likely. You have to know something. You have no idea what they did.
Well, the fact that Lamar's not traded anywhere, I mean, that's
right. It's possible, yes.
Right,
it's
fine,
totally possible. But you
Possible.
have no clue if the Jets didn't always just say Aaron Rodgers was our guy and never bother to go through the process or not. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's, of course, not impossible. But you have no idea. None of us do because there's been no reporting about it. There's only ever been a link between the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. And look, he's their guy, and that's the way it's going to go. And I don't care. I don't care because it's irrelevant to me. I don't want Lamar Jackson to be playing somewhere else.
It seems like even what was communicated to the Jets players it was Aaron Rodgers. Remember the video of Sauce Gardner and the Cheesehead?
Oh, yeah. It
seemed like it was communicated possible.
But that doesn't mean that it, to Griffin's point, if he would speak it more eloquently or more appropriately, it could be that's in part because Joe Douglas called Eric DeCosta and said, dude, is there any chance? And Eric DeCosta said, no, there's no chance. He's going to be the guy. Okay, well, then we don't need to continue this conversation. It's possible. 100% it's possible. I would want to know that as a Jets fan. I would want someone to tell me, hey, please tell me this wasn't your first thought. Yeah. Please tell me you at least attempted to come up with a better plan, a better solution for creating a window and didn't just immediately pivot to 40-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, because for all the criticism Mark gets about his health, it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers didn't limp into the end of the season.
It's not like he isn't 40 years old. Which, again, I get it. Tom Brady has messed with us and what it is that we think that a 40-year-old quarterback is capable of doing. And I also understand that we're only 2 years removed from Aaron Rodgers being the MVP of the league. However, a year ago, we all – by the way, the analytic folks will tell you Aaron Rodgers was awful last season. Those of us that watch would be like, no, we thought he played pretty well. And also, this tends to be what happens when you get rid of wide receivers and just say, go try to win with this. It's amazing how it works, that every time you want to believe, other than obviously Patrick Mahomes, that any quarterback can just make wide receivers better. It's remarkable how when you get rid of the good ones and don't have good ones on the field, it's never the case for anyone other than one guy in the history of football. And that's untrue. Tom Brady had one season where he had no wide receivers either. But that's two. 2 seasons in football history. 2 total. That's what you got.
Maybe I'm drawing a parallel too far, but don't Rodgers MVPs kind of feel like Jokic's MVPs right now?
No.
Where it's like,
no.
we're just giving them because we know they had the best season.
No, not at all. Because you absolutely believe that those teams, that the Rodgers teams could win the Super Bowl. 1,000%. And he's actually done it. Like, on top of that. Whereas Jokic, you have no thought that it's possible that he could win a title. Both, like, every Rodgers, this might be your Packers, like, hate coming out as a Vikings fan, but everybody on the planet believed that those Packers teams could win the Super Bowl.
I just feel like that Super Bowl is an afterthought at this point. Like,
an afterthought?
It happened over a decade ago.
Yes, I understand that. It still happened. You don't make it go away. You don't get to say, like, Aaron Rodgers can't win a Super Bowl or never won a Super Bowl or something like that.
I didn't say he never won a Super Bowl.
But I don't understand what your point is.
The Super Bowl is an afterthought.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Now you're like Griffin, just making things up. What the hell is that supposed to mean? It's an afterthought.
Hey, it was against the Steelers. Do you
right,
take
yes,
it as a win as well?
Yeah, no, you sure as hell do. I've never been a bigger Packers fan in my life than that day. Jesus. I was a huge Cardinals fan, but they let me down. I still don't understand what it is that you're trying to say. I don't get the point. You just don't like the Packers. Is that what it is?
For that run where he won back-to-back MVPs, it was kind of like, it felt like everybody knew. You could say, like, they were favorites to win the Super Bowl, but everyone knew, like, it's going to come crashing at some point. And it did.
I don't understand what you mean by that. What are you saying?
You expected them to choke is kind of.
Not only me.
What do you mean not other Vikings fans did?
No.
Dude, you are making something
up.
When
it came to play the 49ers twice.
49ers do like eliminating the Packers.
Yeah.
But that's not like a thing that's existed for 15 years. That's a thing that happened recently. Yeah. You are creating a world in which there was
compared it to happened recently.
They were wild favorites to beat the 49ers. Nobody expected the 49ers to beat them. You are making something up. You might have thought it was going to happen again, but you've got to recognize your bias. You don't like the Packers, and that's fine. I'm not mad at you for that. I know what it's like to be a fan. I don't like the Steelers, but I still knew that the Steelers were threats to win a Super Bowl most years when Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback because Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback. I can't just make something up or rewrite history because I don't like them. I don't like Ben Roethlisberger at all. I think he's a scumbag, but he's also one of the 5 best quarterbacks of an era. Like, that's the way that it works. And Aaron Rodgers, let's be frank about it, until Patrick Mahomes came along, Aaron Rodgers was the most talented quarterback we had ever seen in football history. Aaron Rodgers had a greater skill set than any quarterback we had ever seen play the game until Patrick Mahomes came along. And that doesn't mean he was the second greatest quarterback of all time. I get into this debate about Jerry Rice and Calvin Johnson, right? Like, Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time, but Calvin Johnson was a more talented wide receiver. Calvin Johnson had more ability to do things than even Jerry Rice did. Aaron Rodgers, from a talent standpoint, was the second most talented, I guess is, the second most talented quarterback that's ever played the game. His skill set, his ability to move, his ability to make every throw, all of those things, the only reason why he's not is because Patrick Mahomes came along and, does things that only aliens can do. All that said, I don't know what it's going to be for Aaron Rodgers in New York. I have no clue. I have zero idea how this is going to play out. I just think if I was a Jets fan.
You just made a great sales pitch. to Jets fans.
No, but I don't know that that's Aaron Rodgers anymore. This is a 40-year-old
You
dude.
just compared it to Brett Favre, so I mean, who knows? Maybe he's in purple and gold in 2 years.
Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the way that they're going to need a quarterback next year.
Are you going to be happy?
They're going to need a quarterback a year from now.
Talk falling. That's helping us.
Stop. He's not falling to the Vikings nonsense.
Well, we're looking to trade up, but
I did because all the numbers are moving. I bit like an idiot, like a mark last night when all of the betting lines were moving on Will Levis to go number 1 overall. I was like, all right, I'll throw a couple bucks in while we're at it. Like a huge stupid head, just lighting my money on fire. There's no chance. Somebody told me this all started by a Reddit post. That some guy on Reddit was like, just so you know, Will Levis is telling all of his friends that he's going to Carolina. And all of a sudden, the markets go crashing in response. And old GC, stupid Mark over here, is
Probably
like,
dove climbing.
I have no idea who it was. All right. Lamar-O-Meter update was brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. We take a minute this morning to catch up with Steve Eigenbrot, the athletic director at Towson. They made an announcement last week about a new NIL Collective at Towson. I want him to explain it to us. It's the GO, or GOH. I assume we're going with GO, and I'll let him tell me right now, because he's with us here on GCR. Steve Eigenbrot, good morning, man. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Appreciate y'all having me on.
All right, so it's the GO Collective, correct? I have that part right?
Yeah, you got a little nod to the Baltimore E's there.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The GO Collective. I am good with it. Walk me through this, right? Because I never understand exactly how athletic departments and universities are or are not allowed to be involved with specific collectives. I still don't understand all of the rules, and maybe that's because all of the rules aren't meant to be understood. But can you walk me through what the actual relationship is between the collective and Towson University?
Yeah, it's complicated, and I think the rules are ever changing. So the fact that you're a little bit behind the curve there, I think there's a lot of people that are in that camp. We made this step really in a large part to be more competitive in the space, and there are some entities out there. Student Athlete NIL, SANIL is the entity that's behind the GO Collective. They run it for probably about a dozen Division I schools. So, I mean, it's a separate third-party entity. Really, at the end of the day, to get something like this off the ground, you either need a really, really motivated individual that's basically going to run a side business, if you will, because it's an entity that has to file taxes, and it's like running a business. Or you can look at one of these companies, again, kind of coming alongside you. It's not like we have a contract with them, but because they exist and because they're going to help our student athletes here at Towson, I think really at the end of the day, individuals that maybe don't run businesses that want to get involved in NIL, want to support our student athletes, have a better path toward doing that. And I think that's kind of the value proposition that they deliver.
So I guess
did that help at all?
Yeah, it does help. It does. And I mean that, Steve. I guess the next step is, so how much can you be involved, like as an athletic director, besides just saying, hey, this exists, we're asking you to support it. I'm guessing the way that you're saying it is like you don't have governance of it, though.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
okay.
That's an odd place to be. But again, the way that our student athletes may or may not, interact with that entity as it moves forward, it's an option that's there for them, and that's why we support it. But yeah, we don't have governance, so I don't know how much money is in it. Probably not supposed to know either. So it's that's where they draw a line in the sand.
But I get the importance is this is the world in which we live in now when it comes to college athletics, and because you want to keep the players that are interested in Towson, this is the marketplace, and that as much as you want to sell, hey, we've got a great school, we got great coaches, we got a great atmosphere, all of those things, there's going to be athletes in almost any sport that are going to turn around and say, right, but how can I profit off of this? And so you've got to be swimming in these waters.
Correct. Yeah, I think a part of, an above-board recruiting pitch, Towson is proving the ways that we're supporting our student athletes and making NIL relevant for them. Obviously, this isn't, SEC football, but we can still do our part as an athletic department to make sure that our student athletes have a chance to be relevant in that space. And a lot of it comes down to them, but are we helping them develop their brands and abilities to monetize themselves? And I think a lot of coaches out there in America are saying, hey, our institution's active in NIL. We've got kids on our campus that are making $10, $15, $20, $100,000, right? I mean, that's allegedly where the line is supposed to be drawn. I think many people have probably crossed that line over the pantheon of years trying to getting used to this, but yeah.
Towson Athletic Director Steve Eigenbrot is with us again. They announced last week the Go Collective that I'm about to say that you have launched, but again, I should probably use more creative wording in this. That has been launched in relation to Towson Athletics. He's with us
there
here
you
on
go.
GCR. It is tricky to define it. Steve, I'm wondering, and I'm not trying to speak to Pete specifically, but you did go through the process of hiring a football coach recently. And I just wonder if in conversations you had with prospective candidates, this was a question that came up. Like, hey, what is the school doing to try to be competitive in the NIL market?
Yeah, it was. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it really drove a ton of my conversation with Coach Shinnick. I think that we'll probably get there at the FCS football level. I'm sure there's institutions that are probably out there talking about the great things that they're doing in this space for their student athletes. Right now, because of I think the landscape of the FCS versus some of the other sports that we sponsor, certainly the basketballs. This is a thing that's out there, and the basketball portal alive and well right now. So it's definitely, I think, becoming relevant. And if you look, kind of back the last couple of years, coming from a school like South Carolina, it felt like every conversation was about NIL. It's getting to this level. It's certainly relevant, and that's why we did this. But the volume's turned down a little bit on that conversation, I think.
Okay, and I understand that the market's going to be different for everybody, right? Like there might be, it's funny because I remember when this first launched, there was this conversation about how, this could impact a locker room. You have one guy making a bunch of money and then a bunch of other guys who don't. I just sort of wonder if at some point, even if it's not, hey, there's direct money that somebody is just willing to hand you, it's something as simple as, hey, we need to teach you about how you can go about, even at a lower level, to your point, even at the FCS level, if there's someone playing football, we need to try to give you as much information we can about how you can brand yourself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I think it's invaluable, and I think it's the way of the world, right? I think this is just the way that things are going to work moving forward. What do people need to know? What do Towson supporters need to know about how they can get involved with the collective? What is the message that you're trying to get out there, Steve Eigenbrot?
Well, it's a little bit of a complicated one, which is not shocking considering the introduction of this conversation that you and I had. We still need to pay the bills, and supporting NIL and supporting our student athletes. If someone has that on their heart, that's something that they want to do. They haven't liked the system over the pantheon of time that student athletes, they didn't like the amateur model or whatever. Now they have an opportunity to step in and make a difference. That being said, the video that we launched talked a lot about Tiger Athletic Fund. Our big giving day here at Towson is tomorrow, actually. And we wanted our donors to make sure they understood that those dollars are super, super important to us too. We got to continue being competitive, and we're not going to unless they're able to continue making their donations and supporting our student athletes in kind of the traditional manners. But that being said, we're another option on the table, and for those that are willing, able, and find value in it, I think we have a great cadre of student athletes, whatever sport it is that they want to support through NIL, whether it's giving a gift directly to a specific program. Or to a specific student athlete, we now have an opportunity for them to be, engaged in that opportunity. So we're excited about it. But again, I think that the dollars that we raise to pay the bills around here still remain very, very important. I think we're well positioned in the CAA, but that's only going to continue as long as our supporters step up.
No, I certainly understand it. It's sort of a fine line, right? Like you need the money to have the program going, but It wouldn't hurt to also have money coming in to help with getting even more high-quality student athletes to come to Towson University. There is a lot happening there. I certainly understand that, Steve. What else is going on? What else is going on in the world of Towson sports right now?
Well, we're excited about wrapping up some things that are happening here in the spring with our lacrosses. Our women's team played a really, really good Stony Brook team over the weekend, and took them to a close finish there. And the CAA tournament's going to be here at TU for women's lacrosse, so we're excited about that. Obviously spring football practice just wrapping up, and going through that transition period. We're excited about the fall. for a lot of reasons. We're definitely tackling some scheduling, so trying to make sure that our men's and women's basketball programs have some exciting teams to come here to CQ next year. We had the back end of a home and home with UMass, which is exciting for us. I think it's one of the more marquee opponents that we've had come down to Towson, and UMass is coached by my former colleague Frank Martin, who's always a good time, and hopefully the Towson faithful come out and watch him when they come down. We're gonna play that game in December, I believe. So yeah, no shortage of opportunities to continue making a difference here to you.
I love that. The Go Collective, it is launched. Is there a specific website that we can direct people to, or is there just search GOH Collective?
GoCollective.com. It's about as easy as it gets.
GoCollective.com. Again, GOH if you want to find out more. Steve Eigenbrot, I appreciate you giving me a little bit more of an explanation about it. It's still going to be confusing. I understand that. But I appreciate you giving me
I'll give it my best try anytime you'll have me.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
It's Steve Eigenbrot, Athletic Director at Towson University. Again, the Go Collective, GoCollective.com. As, I don't know, maybe if you put like $5 million in there, you can get Hunter Dickinson. Who knows? I don't know.
Come to Towson.
Yeah, right? I mean, I don't know what it's going to cost, but why not? Give it a shot, right? Like, hey. Got it lying around.
That line in itself should just tell you where college sports have gone. I don't know what it's going to cost.
I mean, let's be fair about
even
that.
10 years ago,
well, yeah. I mean, it would have been beyond the pale.
Violation.
This is where we are now.
I mean, now Towson's at a point there. They don't have just like Maryland has Juju Reese. They got Charles Thompson. They don't have room for Hunter Dickinson.
Right. That's a good point. It wouldn't be a good fit basketball-wise. Can't bring in Hunter Dickinson. All right, the Orioles win last night as they rally from down 4-0. That is the fun thing about the Birds, is that even when they felt it, it's weird how they struggled to score against the Tigers this weekend. But yet, even when they fell behind 4-0 early last night, I definitely had that feeling of, okay, hold up, let them cook. The Red Sox can't pitch.
As long as Kramer stops letting a home run.
So that's the bigger problem, of course.
Right.
Like that's the two-pronged look at what happened last night is they won the game. That's a good thing. And they didn't strike out all night, which is bizarre. I mean, just an utterly. I saw. Did you have that in Tidbit today? Like I saw a few stats going around for like a game in which they didn't strike out because it just does not happen. Tonight marked the first time the Orioles did not strike out in a game since August 8th, 2010.
There was only one walk. Chris Hill had the walk.
Well, I mean, that's not quite as interesting as this. This is
but you think
not a single strikeout. Not a single strikeout all night is weird. Now, I guess somebody also pointed out that Chris Sale hasn't had a game where he didn't have a strikeout, and
I think he's coming off a game where he had 11. So
that sounds right.
Or it was 2 starts ago. I guess.
Hang on a second.
I think it was last week.
Hang on a second. Now that he's out of the game, this is from our buddy Joe Sheehan. Now that he's out of the game, Chris Sale didn't strike anyone out in 5 innings. His longest previous appearance without a strikeout was 1 1/3 innings. He's never faced more than 6 batters in a game without striking out at least 1.
Dang.
11 on April 18th against the Twins.
So it's kind of interesting, right? And for everybody in the lineup getting a hit, that's a good thing. All well and good. It was clearly a balanced effort last night. The fact that they turned to Yenier Cano with a runner in scoring position in the 9th inning because they wanted to protect Felix Bautista, that was wild. Don't try to tell me that there's some sort of I literally had somebody reach out to me this morning like there's a closer controversy brewing. I said, no, there's not. This is what we do when we just say nonsensical things. There is in no world a closer controversy brewing. You know what it is? It's a nice thing to have. So, all that being said, the story moving beyond the pleasantries of last night, the pleasantries of a 7-game win streak. Of course, the Orioles and Pirates now both with 7-game win streaks, so that's the most likely World Series matchup, I think, at this point would be Baltimore-Pittsburgh.
Finally get some revenge.
For 1979, no doubt. I've been waiting a long time. This is our moment. What strikes me is it's two-pronged about Dean Kramer. It is troublesome that he kind of reverted back to the Dean Kramer that we had seen to begin the season, and yet we do also have to acknowledge that after he got rocked, he battled back to give them a decent enough start.
Enough that you got to win. Like,
I mean, that doesn't I know Stan loves to bring up wins still when we talk about I just don't. The win stat is the most meaningless stat in all of baseball. It is irrelevant.
along with quarterback
It
wins.
is.
And
Well, I mean, it's about as relevant as a quarterback win. It's just nonsense. It's like it's for people that watch baseball in the 1970s, right? Like it is. We have to be willing to accept, the rest of us, that we have moved on and that there is nothing about the statistic of a win. Like if you give up 8 runs and you happen to get a win,
it means you went 5 innings, and I think that
fine. Like you can say went 5 again, saying hey, it went 5 innings and that's not nothing. But is it something? I don't know. I don't know how to quantify it. What I would say is it doesn't mean that Dean Kramer gets booted out of the rotation, but I think it puts him right back under the microscope. Again, for a team that intends to win, they have to look at everything and how much that particular thing is helping them win. And for the most part, Dean Kramer has not helped the Orioles win this season. Now, I get it. It's still a smallish sample size. And I'm not going to try to suggest that last night was an abomination. It looked like it was about to be an abomination. And there was an argument. One of the things I'll give Brandon Hyde credit for is saying, I'm not going to screw up the rest of the week by pulling Dean Kramer so early in this game that it costs me significantly in the bullpen when it still looks like you're maybe a week's away from Tate and Givens. It'd be one thing if you thought you had reinforcements coming immediately, but right now it doesn't appear to be the case. So I do give Brandon Hyde credit that when Dean Kramer was getting his brains bashed in, he at least said, let me wait this out a little bit and see what might happen. And he was rewarded for that by Dean Kramer battling. Not pitching well, but battling. So what does that mean? Well, again, there's nobody right now that's screaming at you, I've got to be in the rotation. You can update me on what Cole Irvin and DL Hall have done their last couple of times out because I have not paid that close of attention to it. There's no one that I know of that's screaming, I have to be in the rotation immediately. So clearly he's not being booted right now. The question becomes, is he one more rough start away from the Orioles saying, we've got to try something else? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I do know that the Orioles have to measure every player. The measurements of years past can no longer be the measurements of this team. You've got to be helping the team win, or they at least have to consider their alternative options. In a world in which we talked about the possibility that, say, Austin Voth is on the chopping block, then maybe Dean Kramer is an option for a long relief role, something like that. Everything has to be explored by this team.
Cole Irvin let up 5 runs in 5 innings.
Not exactly a great
on
Sunday. Sunday?
Yes.
What about Hall?
Hall on Friday let up 2 runs off of 5 hits in 5 innings. So
how many walks and how many runners did he put on base?
2 walks,
so
let up 5 hits.
7 base runners over 5 innings. So 8 base runners over 5 innings. Although oddly, like
5 strikeouts.
Hitting a batter does not count against your whip, does it?
No, it doesn't.
It's a very weird. What a bizarre. Imagine. I had a whip of 1 today, and they're like, you hit 10 batters. Yes, but I had a whip of 1.
Maybe they really are stretching him out because he went 3 innings in his first start, 4 1/3, 4 innings, and then 5 on Friday.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, like, they've got to prioritize DL Hall. Like, this is the thing I say about Cole Irvin. I can live with that, but at some point there has to be a priority for DL Hall being in the major leagues in some form or fashion. Either it's going to work with them stretching him out, which I actually, again, I do line up with Stan a little bit where I say I don't know that that's best for DL Hall. I think I have kind of come to grips with the idea that that might not be. Either it's going to work stretching him out to get him into the rotation, or it's not going to work, and they have to get him to the major. They can this is or get off the pot territory right now with DL Hall. He can't stay at AAA for another 2 months. Yeah. So they have to revisit that at some point coming. So I would say that if he has another, what day did he make his start? Friday?
Friday, yeah.
So I guess that means he's going to pitch midweek this week, Thursday perhaps, because I'm assuming they had Monday off. So he pitches on Thursday, pitches, again, fairly well. Dean Kramer has another rough outing over this coming weekend. Then I could absolutely see a scenario by which you look at your off days and you say, all right, it's time to let DL Hall have a shot. And maybe it's because you're giving up on Austin Voth at that point, right? Maybe it's because you're saying, now you'd still have to make another roster move on top of this. Or, no.
I mean, so DFA Voth is what you're...
Yeah, that's my suggestion. But if you're DFAing Voth and moving Kramer to if you're bringing up DL Hall, you got to create another roster spot. Like, it doesn't actually solve your problem. Like, DFAing Voth, the idea was that was how you get Tate and Givens here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not actually solving the problem. I'm creating an additional problem by doing this, by putting DL Hall in the rotation.
Tell Kramer you're
but
a bullpen guy.
But the answer, you have to have a long man. You have to have a long man. So it's either, or unless you believe that Baumann can be your long man, right? Like, that's the kind of wild card in all of this, is they've used him not in that type of role, but he certainly has pitched plenty of innings before. They might believe that he can be their long man / spot starter. But it's kind of nice to have two of those, right? It's kind of nice to have Voth, who could be your emergency spot starter right now, and then you can have your emergency long man. Like, what if Voth can only go 3 innings? Then Baumann can come in. It's nice to be able to piggyback on that. If Aiken's going, then I really have no idea who you believe that guy is if you get rid of Voth. Like, Aiken could give you innings potentially, but I don't know who else in the bullpen you believe could give you innings if necessary. So it's a complicated.
Felix Bautista can probably do 2.
Yes, that's where you would be at. You'd be pitching everybody for an inning. Brian Baker gives you 2, like that type of scenario. I don't know. I'm getting a little bit lost in the weeds. I do think that you have to put Dean Kramer back under the microscope after last night's start. I think that the totality of what we've seen this season, there's one good start from Dean Kramer,
and it's against the Nats,
one of the worst offenses in baseball. So I think that's a significant measurement in saying
how he does against the Tigers this weekend will probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. Again, when we use words like we use the wrong words in these terms. I think that if he were to get roughed up against the Tigers, then that's got to be it.
Right.
Like, that's got to be. It's just time to try something else. And it's a different conversation with Dean Kramer than it is with Austin Voth, because Dean Kramer still has an option left. So you're not giving up on Dean Kramer at that point. You're simply saying, right now, we need to put somebody else in the rotation that we think might give us a better chance of winning every 5th day. And if that doesn't work out and Dean Kramer's pitching well, we can always go right back to Dean Kramer. But we've got to constantly be giving our team the best chance at winning. It's not a one rough start and you're out of here type of scenario. It's a, dude, if you're getting roughed up for a month, that's enough of a sample size at this point that unless you're, I'm trying to think of who would be able to survive to me getting roughed up for a month. I guess Kyle Gibson would be able to survive because you invested $10 million in him, and so he's kind of got to be that guy. But, even Grayson I don't think would be able to survive getting roughed up for a month. I think that Grayson would probably, because, again, he's got options. They would just send him back down. I think right now you've got to be prioritizing giving your team the best chance at winning, and Dean Kramer, for the most part, has not given you the best chance at winning. But I'm giving you, he makes another start. I'm not saying you do this tomorrow. I'm saying let him make another start this weekend, and that's got to be that. Either he's going to figure it out or somebody else has got to get a shot. And it's not a condemnation of Dean Kramer. It's not saying he's never going to be able to do it. It's this is the circumstance that we're in. We're not top-heavy in our rotation. We don't have aces. We've got to try to do our best, get the best that we can from everybody that's in there. If you have one guy in a rotation full of studs that is a little bit shakier, you can probably live with it, right? Like, well, we know we're going to win the next day. We know we're going to win the day after that. Right now, you don't know anything. Although, in fairness, you have, for the most part, pitched well for the last week.
Right. Maybe they try to start Voth again just because he might be like maybe it's a mentality thing. You talk about guys benefit from going to the bullpen. Maybe he benefits.
That's
from
a really imagine
being a starter.
imagine saying that to Orioles fans right now. Like
I
we're
mean,
gonna
he was
we're
a
gonna
very,
move. Here's the good news.
starter
We're gonna
last
move
year.
Kramer out. Okay, listening and move Voth in. What? to do what now? I just don't know that you could sell that.
Yeah,
at
I
the
don't.
moment.
Yeah,
I
it's
hear your thought
But-
process. I would say I think the inclination would be DL Hall before it would be Austin Voth. All right. What time are we doing now?
We could probably
Piss.
take a
No,
break.
go ahead. We'll just do it now. I let the time get away from me.
I'm not sure if this is like news you're aware of or not, but the New York court
Yes,
made a
the
ruling
Masson
against-
story. Yeah, and the problem is we don't know what it means because it could still be appealed to the
Yeah, I was
Supreme
trying to
Court,
read it, yeah.
and it still doesn't actually solve the actual dispute as much as it solves the money that was being held in escrow. Anytime you think that anytime someone tries to suggest to you that the Masson dispute is coming to an end, it is not. I promise you, it is not coming to an end. But yes, there was a ruling today or this morning about the appeal and specifically that the Orioles claimed that the arbitration process that Major League Baseball had was biased against them. And this New York appeals court ruled that it was not biased against them. So it might mean that the Orioles are going to have to pay this $100 million they've held in escrow to the Nationals, or they might try to appeal it to the Supreme Court. Why the United States Supreme Court would take this case, I have no earthly idea, but there are lots of things that exist in the world that I don't understand anymore, so I'm not going to speak about something I don't fully know. That's just where we are. But yes, there was a ruling today in the ongoing Masson dispute. Hour number 1 of today's program is also brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, we are joined by our friend Patrick Stevens of USA Lacrosse Magazine and the Washington Post. Talk some college sports. Patrick, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I am well, Glenn. How are you?
I'm all right. I got to watch. I regret not taking the kids down because the weather actually ended up being okay on Saturday night. But I got to watch most of the game. I'll ask you this question. Which statement is more likely to be true from Saturday night? That we learned that Johns Hopkins is a viable national championship contender, or that we learned that maybe Maryland is less in that first group of contenders and more in that second group at this point?
Yeah, I think they're both in that second group.
Yeah.
And I think if anything, we probably learned more about Hopkins than Maryland. I mean, one of the things I asked John Geppert after the game and was basically, this is a team that's been kind of inconsistent. It hasn't won more than 3 in a row. Maryland hasn't all year. And he basically agreed, saying that they had some spurts and then they'd have a letdown. And it's happened kind of repeatedly. And now they're in a spot where they can't afford to do that. And, you might have noticed I said that they haven't won more than 3 in a row all year. And it takes 4 in a row to win a national title.
Right.
So I think that's kind of who Maryland has been all season. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it was an embarrassing performance by any stretch. I mean, that was a really fun game.
Great game.
It wasn't as good as the Maryland-Virginia game down in Charlottesville. Like that was a higher level type game. I mean, both of these teams had 18 turnovers on Saturday. So, that was kind of what you would expect to see a couple quarterfinalists that probably aren't going to go all the way to. But if you're Johns Hopkins and I'm sitting here offering you 11-4, and we're talking about hosting a NCAA tournament game and talking about them being a viable quarterfinalist, that maybe if they get the right game, the right performance on the right day, maybe they make the Final Four. If somebody had offered that to Hopkins back in January, they would have picked.
No question. Oh my God.
Given what the last few years have looked like. So I mean, I think that Saturday sort of validated two things: that Hopkins is a lot better than what it has been. And, it now has this victory to go along with a few others that it's picked up over the course of the season that are useful. And it also validated that Maryland went from being a team that had all these fourth and fifth year guys and was a generational team, and they graduated a bunch of guys, and now they're just kind of like a lot of other teams that you don't necessarily know which version of them is going to show up from week to week. And it's sort of like, welcome back to reality, guys. Like it's not going to be like that every single year.
No, and I think that's fair. I'm going to ask you this follow-up question, and I want to make sure I preface this. I understand he's still winning 62%, and I know that obviously the wing play maybe isn't quite what it was a year ago, but was I a little caught off guard by Luke Weirman kind of not being as dominant as maybe I expected him to be as the season has gone on?
Yeah, I think some of it is that there's, and I think this goes for most face-off guys that maybe aren't named T.D. Erlin and Trevor Baptiste.
Right.
That usually those guys there's a little more film out there, and people try to eventually throw the kitchen sink at them. And Hopkins is interesting in that they've got 3 face-off guys, and they're not afraid to throw any of them out there at any given time. And so, at the start of the game, Naruski was 0 for 4 right out of the chute. And so Peter Milliman went to Tyler Dunn, and Tyler Dunn does a really good job of making a face-off a scrum. And one of the great advantages that Hopkins has is they have tremendous wing play, whether it's Alex Mazzone, the Georgetown transfer, the long pole. He had 8 ground balls the other day. And they've got Jack Hawley out there, and basically his job is to be a face-off guy. Like, that is what he does, is to be a face-off wing guy. And so I think that, you touched on a little bit, maybe Maryland's wing play isn't as good as it was in previous seasons. But I also think that people have a better idea of how to go about their business against Luke Weirman as compared to last year as well.
I think that's fair, and I get it. Like, he's still having a very good season. I'm not trying to suggest that he is not an outstanding face-off specialist. I guess I was just a little bit surprised when I looked up and I was like, wow.
And truthfully, you can argue he's still about as valuable a guy as they have, because we're talking about a team that he's at 62% or whatever it is, low 60s, low to mid 60s. A team with their offense that doesn't necessarily have that alpha that we're accustomed to seeing Maryland have. Having the ball, getting the ball 62% of the time is a lot better off than if he was around 50%. So I think his value is significant. He is not having as good of a season as he had last year. But part of the thing that made him amazing last year is that he went from being a guy that was around 46, 47% into the mid 60s, and I don't think anybody saw that coming. I don't think anybody in College Park saw that.
Right.
And so is this year a little off? Yes, it's a little off. But I also think there was a little bit of magic there, too, that everybody was like, holy cow, look at what this is adding to an already stacked team. And this year, I think there's probably a little more onus on him to be able to play well. And so I think being in the low 60s is still pretty good. But I do agree with you that his season is not quite the same as it was a season ago.
I was posed a question by someone I saw on Saturday night, and I don't know how to define it, so I'm going to give you the shot. How do you explain the impact that John Crawley's return has had on what Hopkins has been able to do this season?
Well, I think that the amazing thing, the couple things. First of all, I think the Hopkins coaching staff is on the same page. And I think that's something that stands out as much as anything else. But I think the other thing that's happened for them is they have developed a tremendous amount of depth, which interestingly enough really wasn't on display as much the other night as it had been in some other games, like when they had all 3 of their second-line midfielders score a couple goals against Rutgers. But this is a team that doesn't necessarily rely on a single guy. I mean, I think Jacob Angelis is the table setter, and he wasn't actually doing what he normally does the other night. I mean, he had 3 goals. That was his first hat trick of the year. But, they got 2 goals, on the second line from Jonathan Peshko. They got 2 assists from Casey McDermott. Brooks English has played better as the season's gone on. He's gotten more opportunities. And they've gotten a little healthier, too. I mean, they've had guys in and out of the lineup all season. And so the great strength, I think, for Hopkins is they just have a lot of dudes and a lot of dudes that contribute. And I don't know if necessarily if we were lining them up as a roster let's say 1 through 30 compared to other teams. I don't know if their best guy is as good as the best guy from a Penn State or certainly a Virginia, Notre Dame, Duke. But you start getting down around like 8, 9, 10, and down through the teens, and they get so much value out of the guys that are playing there. The Milliman line is they want to have the best role players in the country. And I got to tell you, I think that they've done that this season, that they have figured out a way to get as much value deep into their roster as they possibly can. And I really do think that is Hopkins' superpower this season.
All right, let's take a look at I want to go – Patrick Stevens is with us. I want to go realities, starting with Hopkins and Maryland, who we're both going to be in. Take me through their realities are they definitely both hosting? Does Maryland now still have to not stub their toe this weekend to make sure that they're hosting? And then, at this point, I guess nobody else in the area has a shot. Navy never really had a shot at getting an at-large, and now it, certainly does not look great for them, given how they were handled by Army. But can you run through kind of the realities for everybody else in the area and where they are as we head towards the end of the regular season and the start of the postseason?
Okay, we'll start with Hopkins, because I think Hopkins is pretty well locked into a home game at this point. I think they're out. There's just not going to be a game that they can lose that's really going to hurt them that much. And their overall profile suggests right now that they'd be either the 4 or the 5 seed. So I don't think that they fall down too much, even if they lose to the Rutgers-Maryland winner in the Big Ten semifinals. I think Maryland, just to be safe, probably ought to go beat Rutgers. I think the victory over Virginia has held up very well to this point, and that's something that is of value. And the victory over Penn State has held up well. But just in case, I think it would be wise to go win that game. And at that point, Maryland is looking at probably no worse than about a 6 or a 7 seed, and possibly better if they're able to win a few more games in the Big Ten tournament. Navy is playing for a home game in the Patriot League tournament when they go to Bucknell on Friday. And so they win that game, and depending on what happens elsewhere, they might see Loyola, they might see Lafayette in a first-round game in that event, but they're going to have to win the Patriot League tournament. Loyola, similar situation. I think they're playing potentially for a home game. They're locked in.
I really needed your help with tiebreaker scenarios as I was doing my broadcast. I know I was texting you about other things.
I kind of looked at them quickly after the Navy game the other day, and there was a little bit of a mess there. So I think the safest way for Loyola to get a home game is a victory coupled with a Navy loss.
Yes, that seems like no matter what, they'd have a home game at that point.
They would have a home game in that case. The tiebreakers are a little convoluted trying to run through it all. So bottom line is that Loyola is going to be the 3, 4, or 5 seed in the conference tournament. And so I think that for them, obviously, at this stage, the loss to Georgetown last week pretty much cements it. They got to go win 3 games in a week to be able to make the NCAA tournament. Towson is in a win-and-they're-in situation this weekend against Delaware. If they beat Delaware, which is a tough task for sure, they will be in the CAA tournament, which will be held at Delaware next week. There is, I believe, a way for Towson to be able to get in the tournament even with a loss, and that would require Stony Brook to beat Hofstra. I don't exactly know. I haven't looked too deeply into what all the tiebreakers look like for Towson at this point, but a scenario where they're in there where they can certainly still finish 4th even with a loss if Hofstra loses to Stony Brook. UMBC, their season is going to come to an end this weekend. They lost to Bryant and Binghamton and Albany. Binghamton and Albany are the teams they're right behind in the America East, so they're not going to win a tiebreaker there. They finish against Vermont, so the Retrievers at 8-4 will have their season come to a close this week. And Mount St. Mary's squandered an opportunity to get home field advantage in the Metro Atlantic tournament. They lost up at Siena, but they still get a bye into the MAC semifinals, so they'll play up at Manhattan next week. Manhattan, the top seed. Mount St. Mary's is the 2 seed. And they will play, I believe, the winner of Marist and Quinnipiac in the 2-versus-3/6 game next Thursday.
You know what's remarkable, and I hope you guys respect it. I just asked him that, did not prep him for it, did not say that's coming. That's just how much Patrick knows about the circumstances. He was fully prepared.
Well, if we're being to go ahead and take a little shine off of that, I did open up my standings.
All right, okay, fair. Shame. How dare you do that? No, I greatly appreciate that rundown. All right, Patrick Stevens, it's time for our game. Can you name the MLB teams that this particular player has?
Now to be clear, I'm shutting the laptop
All right,
off now
thank
to
you,
play the
thank
game.
you.
So.
A trickier one to start, and then one I think you should. Although I don't know, this might be one you do really well with. Two-time All-Star, someone who was once MVP of the ALCS, a 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, and a Silver Slugger Award winner. 4 teams for Placido Polanco.
Placido Polanco was a Cardinal.
Most certainly.
And a Philly.
Most certainly.
And a Detroit Tiger.
Where he was ALCS MVP in 2006.
And then we're basically leaving
He went back to Philly for a little while, and then
yes, he did.
And then he wrapped in 2013 with a cameo elsewhere.
A cameo in 2013 for Placido Polanco.
I say cameo. He played 100. He played 118 games. It wasn't really a cameo.
Okay. I don't know, the Marlins.
Shut up. Shut up. Did you really just guess that? Is that, or did you kind of know that? And
I had a vague intuition.
Damn. All right. Well, if you went 4 for 4 on Placido Polanco, I don't know, man. The other one I had was a guy whose story, unfortunately, also involves some tragedy. He wanted to honor Qualcomm once upon a time. A former All-Star, was once Comeback Player of the Year, and then stockpiled some teams at the end. It ended up being 5 teams for Matt Harvey.
Matt Harvey. Okay, the Mets.
Obviously.
Kansas City.
That's if you remember that one, you might be able to go 5 for 5 on Matt Harvey.
He was in Cincinnati, right?
He most certainly was.
He was in Baltimore.
That was the last spot that he attempted to make it work in.
Okay, so there's one other spot for Matt Harvey. One other spot for Matt Harvey, huh?
Yep.
So he was it Mets and then Cincy?
Yes, and then there was a spot before Kansas City. There was a spot in between, and I if you're struggling, I'll tell you. There's a reason why.
No,
okay.
Tell me how many games he pitched for this other team.
Right. Hang on one second. I got to pull up Baseball Reference page. Sorry, I just put it away. That's my fault. Matt Harvey in 2019 made 12 starts.
12 games started for random team, unknown origin. Was he in Colorado in that spot?
Not Colorado. If I reminded you that this was why there was some controversy and unfortunately a little bit of tragedy for Matt Harvey, would that?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Angels.
He was with the Angels.
Yep, the
that's
Angels.
right.
That was the story. Exactly right. All right. What does the schedule look like for you this week, my friends?
Maryland and Rutgers on Saturday night in College Park, and then Notre Dame, Virginia. In Charlottesville on Sunday.
That'll be decent.
Really titanic
ACC
game.
That'll be a decent little game to be at on Sunday. That'll be okay. At Discourse, D1S Course on Twitter, and of course the Washington Post, USA Lacrosse Magazine, where you find him. Patrick Stevens, always appreciate you, my friend. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
Thanks so much for having me, Glenn.
It's Patrick Stevens with us here on GCR. All right, busy hour number 1 in the books. It has also been brought to you by this print issue of Press Box, which is available right now. Features that illustration of Jackson Holiday on the cover. Go pick it up wherever it is that you find Press Box. It's got a great sort of special section all about the pipeline of talent that still exists for the Baltimore Orioles, despite the fact that Adley Rutschman got here and Grayson Rodriguez got here and Gunnar Henderson got here. There's still a lot to come. what was the crazy lady that is dating? The best is yet to come.
At the RNC.
You remember that?
Yeah.
What's her? She was Donald Trump Jr.'s
yeah.
girlfriend, right?
No, she was like a.
No, she used to be on.
staffer.
She used to be on Fox, and then she's dating. No, she's dating Donald Trump Jr.
Oh, the junior.
Yeah, not the. No, I don't think she's dating. Who knows?
It was in. If I can remember the city, was it like Milwaukee or Cleveland?
I
or
don't
something?
remember.
Cleveland.
I don't remember. I just remember it being like the soundbite that you couldn't get away from for a. The best is yet to come.
Can't pronounce her last
Kimberly
name.
Guilfoyle.
Guilfoyle.
Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly who it was. God. Yeah, that's basically what this section is. But I don't know that it's the best because I don't know that it can get better than Adley Rutschman. But there's still a lot to come is the point that we're trying to make. And you can find out more about it in that print issue of Pressbox. Speaking of which, as you're reading all about the talent that is still to be coming, the Kobe Mayos, the Heston Kjerstads of the world, you can also get out and see all of these guys. Jackson Holiday headed to Aberdeen. You can win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, plus an Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older in order to enter, and the sweepstakes ends on June 14th. Get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now in order to get signed up. Still to come today, we're going to meet Matt Shaw, Maryland baseball, top MLB draft prospect. He's having a killer season. They're playing at UMBC tonight. And I'm going to dive back into, I got a question related to what we were just talking about with Dean Kramer and the Orioles and all that. So we'll get into that as well. It's all on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 #1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of GCR. Don't forget, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. If you, like I, would like to light some money on fire by betting Will Levis to be the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft, and there's nothing I enjoy more than lighting some money on fire, if you would also like to do that, the first thing you should do is go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers, because then you might be lighting someone else's money on fire. Because you could sign up right now to get up to a $1,000 get up to a $1,000 deposit bonus match. I don't know why I struggled with that. Get up to a $1,000 deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet from DraftKings. But the only way to do it is go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Again, that's PressBoxOnline.com/offers to get signed up, to take advantage of that deposit bonus match. And then when you want to light your money on fire, you're really lighting their money on fire. So no big deal. No big deal at all. All right. This is a very good way of phrasing this. This came from Chris, as we were just talking about the situation and what you do. Like, when do you think about it with Dean Kramer? Chris poses it this way. Chris says, Glenn, I understand what it is that you're saying. I don't think Dean Kramer's been disastrous, and he certainly deserves some credit for battling last night. But to me, it's a bigger issue. I need the Orioles to exhaust every option to know whether or not they're going to need to make a trade come July. They can't find out that DL Hall is their backup plan and then DL Hall implodes in August. They need to go through all of these things and figure out if they have enough starting pitching now so that the pressure can be on Mike Elias to make the move. I would say that even if they feel good about 5 guys, they should still be looking to make a move. I mean, it's a weird way of – I understand what it is that you're saying, Chris, is that you can't just keep dangling someone out there that's struggling, because then if the thought process is come May, we'll just – now, May's basically now. Come June, we'll give DL Hall a shot. Well, what if DL Hall looks pretty good for like 3 starts, but then he ends up imploding afterwards, right? Like, you've got to get answers about as quickly as you possibly can. Now, my flip side argument would be, even if DL Hall moves into the rotation in 3 weeks and pitches well, the assumption that all of your guys are going to stay healthy and keep pitching that well all season long is kind of nonsense. Remember, you're still going to deal with an innings cap at some point for Grayson Rodriguez, and even if all of your guys are pitching well, you could probably still use someone that you could count on more reliably to be a sort of a shutdown type of guy, a top-of-the-rotation type of pitcher. Whether or not that guy's actually available or you're willing to pay the price for that particular player, that's a different conversation. But I would say that even if your guys are working, you should still be in the market for another starting pitcher, because this is baseball, right, and you need to have as many of those as you possibly can. And again, that goes back into the conversation of good problem to have. I don't think Dean Kramer should be what holds you up in exploring trade options, but I do get what it is that you're trying to say. Get on with it, because there are expirations for certain things. Get on with it. Don't keep waiting in hopes that Dean Kramer will be more solid. Figure out if you internally can solve the problem. If you can't, be more aggressive in trying to solve the problem externally. In theory, yes. In practicality, try to solve a problem that doesn't exist externally. Like, go do more externally. Do as much as you possibly can to have as much pitching as you possibly can. More and more and more and more. Now, I still don't expect the Orioles to really be in on the Corbin Burns market, for example. Right. But, yes, go about doing that. So, yes, I understand it, and it is another way of saying it. You can't wait on this forever or say, well, he's not god awful. He didn't give up 9 runs last night and he battled it. You got to be able to make a decision on this without it always being so definitive. Not everyone can just stink to high heavens. Remember, they made an aggressive decision on Cole Irvin before I think any of us believed it was time for them to make an aggressive decision about Cole Irvin. I think at that point we were all kind of stunned. We get it. He wasn't good. But I think we all expected this was a guy that you went out and targeted this offseason. You're going to let him try to work his way through it for a little bit. Like, give him another shot or two to figure out if that can be the guy that you expected him to be. I think the point being that you've got a larger sample size now on Dean Kramer, and even if he's not been atrocious, you just need better than that. You can't constantly count on your team to rally from down 4-0. And his conversation is a bit different than Grayson Rodriguez's was when he gave up 4 runs in the first inning. Whereas I do think that if he had struggled that day, I genuinely believe that if Grayson Rodriguez had not gotten out of the 3rd inning that day, he would have been sent back down at that point. That being said, he did, and he backed it up with another strong start. So Grayson Rodriguez is off the chopping block for now. But all of these guys can be on the chopping block, every single one of them. Like, that's just the way that it works because you're trying to win. Yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, do we start thinking about who we want to move in order to get a
No.
pitcher?
I mean, it's purely speculative.
Okay.
I mean, like, I think everybody knows the area where you have the most is middle infield prospects, and so
Right.
you're hoping that you can use the depth that you have there. Obviously, everybody's going to keep brainlessly saying that you could try to use your major league talent to go about acquiring major league pitching, but as I have said every time that topic has come up, I don't know who the team is that is such a surplus of pitching that's specifically looking for another outfielder. I just don't know. It's going to have to be a very unique set of circumstances for me to think that's the way you're going to do it. But can it be cyclical? Can you use your glut of infield prospects to acquire major league pitching and then maybe turn around and trade one of your current major leaguers to replenish your stock of prospects? That could end up being a cycle that ends up working this season. I just don't know that you're going to be able to trade 1 for 1.
Just the Dodgers, since they are they're in need of a shortstop. Like, they're trying to put Mookie Betts at shortstop. Is that something you could see moving Mateo?
Mateo? I mean, at the minute, I wouldn't be messing with Mateo.
Right, I know.
I mean that's the problem.
Player.
Like, I get why you'd say it's more desirable to trade Mateo than it is to trade, Westberg, and why the Dodgers would be more compelled by Mateo than they would be by the Dodgers aren't looking for a prospect. Well, unless they are. Let's be fair about that, right? Unless they are. Unless they're saying, hey, look, we did the crazy luxury tax. We want to go a different direction. It'd be interesting. I don't know what you're getting.
Right.
Like, what from their staff?
Obviously, Walker Buehler.
Sure.
Just kidding.
Sure. Straight up. Who says no? I don't know what they're willing. That's, again, like, it's well and good to put this out there, but are they willing to part ways with any of their, like, they came in not nearly as deep pitching wise as we're used. Remember, we're used to Dodgers having 8 legitimate starting pitchers on their roster. They didn't come in this year that deep in starting pitching. So I just don't know that.
Yeah, that they'd be willing to.
Like, I am in a really weird place with this. I think that it's not, you can't get your pitching from a contending team. And the Dodgers are not likely to not be a contending team. The Brewers, I get why it could be unique with Corbin Burns. I do understand why, even if they're contending, that can be unique. But you can't get your contending teams that are trying to win aren't giving up pitching. Unless it's an extraordinarily unique circumstance. You're going to have to find your pitching from a bad team that happens to have a pitcher. The Mateo thing is fascinating, right? Because somebody would say, well, right now at this moment, he has as significant a trade value as he's ever going to have, and you love all the guys you have behind him, so why not move him?
Or his trade value could keep going up.
Maybe. It's hard to believe that, but because he is a little bit older, he is. I don't think his trade value.
In 3 weeks, I don't know. Like, he keeps hitting.
It's still hard to. I mean, like this. I don't know that I see that. So somebody would say, trade him as soon as you can. If you're ever going to trade him, if the plan isn't for Jorge Mateo to be your guy, trade him now, because you can't have greater value on Jorge Mateo. But then it gets tricky. Again, imagine walking in and selling that to your fan base. The guy, the best player on the baseball team, we're going to look to move. I get it. I understand the theory. And they've got to go, like, sort of scramble around. Do we really think that Jorge Mateo has established himself as being a guy that we can count on for the next 5 years? And that's complicated because of his age, right? But if you do, then why wouldn't you be looking to trade what's behind him? Why wouldn't you be looking? As much as everybody said Joey Ortiz is like the shortstop moving forward because he's so good defensively. Well, does somebody else believe that? at some point they're going to have to address the issue that they have with all their infield prospects. They can't just keep holding on to this many of them. And the intention, like, they still got to figure out if they have accepted that Gunnar Henderson's a third baseman. Let's be frank, that's been so far, but doesn't inspire confidence about him being moved to shortstop either. Like, you could say, well, maybe he's just more comfortable at shortstop. I don't know. He hasn't played third base. Like, he makes some plays, and there's times where you're like, okay, I get it. But it's not been flawless. There have been some throws that have been
skip throws.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a good number of those.
As much as Mountcastle should have picked it anyway.
100%. Well, he made a nice pick on one on, what is it, Sunday that he made the really nice pick?
Yeah, I think.
I don't think that right now you're hell-bent on Henderson having to be your shortstop, but I think they probably are about Jackson Holiday, right? Like, I'd be hard-pressed to believe that they don't think Jackson Holiday is ultimately a shortstop. And if he continues to rise, I saw Dan Connolly say something. Somebody messaged Dan Connolly yesterday, like, I don't think it's impossible Jackson Holiday could be here next year. I got to come up with the exact quote that Dan Connolly said because it was so, like, it was explosive to me, the way that Dan Connolly, of course, the Orioles beat writer for The Athletic, responded to a tweet from somebody after the news came out. Madison, who actually, no, tweets and said, I have to think he could be in Baltimore potentially next year. I could tell in Sarasota how unfazed he was with being in big league camp. Dan Connolly said, that would be an uncharacteristic push by the regime given the games played. But I think it is possible. That's bonkers.
He'll be...
The kid was in high school a year ago. In high school. Now, I get it. He was ripping the cover off the ball to start the season at Salisbury. So if he goes and does that in Aberdeen for the next 4 months, are you not thinking about putting him at Bowie before the season is over? Like saying, hey, let's go get a taste of Double-A because you've clearly overwhelmed high-A pitching? And if he does that, and then you would presumably start him at Bowie next season, and he quickly is murdering Bowie pitching, then by this time next year, is he at AAA? And if he's at AAA by this time next year, yeah, I mean, he could be in Baltimore before the season is over. Now, again, there's a lot of, I'm fast-forwarding a little bit in the process, and I'm projecting a bit, but to think it's impossible, I'll trust Dan Connolly.
All things go right.
Yeah, I'll trust Dan Connolly. And I also get why they, at that point, might be inclined to be more aggressive. It's one thing when you're dealing with Adley Rutschman and the team stinks, and you're also coming out of a pandemic and all of those things, and you're not trying to rush through things. But now, if the team's competitive and you've got another rock star bat that you can add to the lineup late in the year to try to get you over the top and a push for the pennant. And again, I'm being aggressive because it's still hard even next year to see how this team is winning the AL East without
a pitcher.
More. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely could see it as being plausible. So I do understand that at some point you have to address the glut of infield prospects you have because they're not. Again, it's one thing to say it's a good problem to have. It is a good problem to have. But at some point, it's got to be used to your advantage. And to your question, Griffin, whether that's using Mateo as the trade chip because of how much you like everything behind him, or whether that's acknowledging that Mateo is him. It's a new thing I just came up with. I'll let you guys use it if you want, but like I spent a lot of time working on it. Yeah, pass it along if you don't mind.
Mateo.
Yeah, if you wanna use that, I'll be okay with it. If you're acknowledging that you think this is the guy. I don't know, man. Like if he really has completely changed who he is as far as looking at pitches, and that's what you're going to see moving forward, everything else was there. Mm-hmm. Like that was it. It just came down to could he get on base enough for it to matter? You don't really even need him to be this guy. If he's a little bit less than this guy, he's still one of the more valuable players on the baseball team. I'm not inclined to move him. And again, the problem being, if he struggles for a little while, then he's going to lose his value too. God, it's so confounding with Jorge Mateo. Like, it's just so unique because he's, 27? Like, it's so unique, the circumstances that you find yourself
He's either
in.
going to be so extremely, like, so highly valuable or worthless almost.
There really is no in between. There's no place where, like, you know, he takes a step back and teams are like, yeah, but we saw enough to know that we can still get it out. Like, that was what the Orioles did. The Orioles were the team that did that. Now he's 27 years old. He'll be 28. What's his birthday? His birthday is June. Yes, he'll be 28 before the All-Star break, before the trade deadline. He'll be 28. You're not selling on what he could become. You're selling on what he is. It's tough, man. It's really tough to make that decision. I'm not prepared to do it right now. Right now, I would say you can't. You cannot possibly do that. But I also get they have to make decisions based on what they know is coming. And if they have decided beyond a shadow of doubt that Jackson Holliday is their opening day shortstop in 2025, you're going to be as hard-pressed to find the same amount of value in Jorge Mateo a year from now. Imagine trying to do this when he's 29 at the deadline next year. And probably not, again, because it's very difficult to match the numbers that he's put up right now. I don't know where we just went with that. But, yes, the infield thing is what you have to use in order to try to get your pitching. There's no doubt about that. All right, speaking of infielders, an infield prospect for this year's MLB draft is going to join us next, and he is having a rock star season down at the University of Maryland. Matt Shaw is going to check in with us when we come back in. Today's show also brought to you by Birdland Sports. They've got the Homer Hose available right now. Birdlandsports.com is the website. It's $15 for you to have your own Homer Hose at home to play along and to celebrate and stay hydrated with the boys whenever a home run is hit. Get to birdlandsports.com right now and get your own Homer Hose. Matt Shaw's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Harford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Harford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick, Jackson Holliday, and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip, that first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along in hour number 2 of today's program. Stan the Fan Charles, Luke Jackson, and Ross Grimsley got together last night. You can find that show right now, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab or go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Find it in any of those locations as Stan, Ross, and Luke got together to talk some baseball last evening. We had the opportunity a little bit earlier on to get together with Matt Shaw as Maryland baseball gets ready to play UMBC, and we want you to hear about it right now on GCR. Well, joined now here on GCR by a man who's getting ready to make the short trip up to Baltimore to technically to Catonsville tonight, where the Maryland baseball team is going to take on UMBC. He is having another outstanding season. He is the shortstop for the Terps. He is Matt Shaw, and he's with us now here on GCR. Matt, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Dude, it's great to chat with you. First of all, just how good does it feel to be playing the way that you're playing, for the team to be winning series? I think, you've lost one series all season long. You're trending in the right direction. How good does it feel to be Matt Shaw at this moment?
Yeah, no, I mean, it feels good right now. The team's, like you said, trending in the right direction. That's huge for us. I think as a whole, we're starting to gain some momentum. And obviously in the game of baseball, really any sport you're playing, momentum is huge. So gain a little bit of momentum going into honestly one of our toughest weeks of the year is going to be this week, where we have the double midweek, and then we have away Indiana. So, I think we're really, really looking forward to this week. Obviously the game, and, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting week, and hopefully a good week for us.
Matt, I know early on in the season you guys had a couple of opportunities. I know you got the one win down at Ole Miss, but you had some opportunities for some big wins, and you came in with a ton of hype. And I'm sure that for some guys it's difficult, right? Because you want to be a top 10 team in the country. You want to prove to everybody immediately. But was there maybe something positive that came from taking a couple of difficult losses, growing from that, and knowing, hey, it's a long season. We've got a long time to make sure, as you pointed out, we're playing our best baseball going into Memorial Day?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that was huge for us, honestly, losing some of those games. I think, this team this year, especially after coming off a really good year last year, we kind of struggled a little bit to find our identity as a team. And I think, as of right now, I think we're really starting to come together. I think as a whole, we're really starting to kind of mesh together and play like we should be playing. So, I think it's a good time for us to have, like I said, one of the toughest weeks of the year. I think we're ready to kind of stand up to that challenge and have a great week. So, I think obviously the beginning of the year wasn't exactly how we wanted it to go, but losing those games was a little bit of a wake-up call. But also, we've worked through it. We've worked through some things, some injuries and stuff, and we're still ready to go.
He is Matt Shaw. He is with us here on GCR. Maryland at UMBC tonight, as he points out. This very difficult week starts tonight, 6 o'clock. If you're local, you can get to Catonsville and check out the Terps as they make their march to the NCAA tournament. Matt, going back to what you said about last year and what a magical season it was outside of, one really terrible umpiring call at the end, but I can say that and you won't. What did it do? What did you sense that it did for the program, for expectations, for the belief of what can be accomplished by a Maryland baseball team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously coming in and doing that was huge. Like the players, the fans, the coaches, everybody. Something we always believed we could do, but, finally being able to do it and see it come to life was like absolutely amazing to see. I just remember seeing a line of fans outside our stadium, and the line was, 200 feet long. And, that was a crazy feeling to see, the Terps Stadium getting filled up like that. So, I think it was huge. I think it's great for the program, obviously. But I also think it kind of started working some things into motion, like getting that new hitting facility, getting new things like that where, in this day and age, it's really hard to recruit when you don't have stuff like that. And for us to continue to get better, you got to be good at recruiting. You got to have facilities. You kind of have to do everything you can. And I think we're finally being able to do that now.
It's so fascinating you bring that up because like I was a student at Maryland once upon a time, and like baseball barely existed in with on campus. It was like, oh right, they play baseball too. So to experience that electricity of what happened last year, I can only imagine like the taste that it leaves in your mouth to say, dude, we need to do that again. And I know it doesn't look great for the chances of hosting a regional at the moment, but like just to have that juice and maybe I don't know if the obligation is the right word, but to sort of carry that moving forward and continuing to push that what Maryland baseball can be in the coming years.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that leaves a pretty bad taste in my mouth, losing, in front of all those people who came out to watch you play, who are supporting you through the weekend. But I think it's something we obviously can do in years to come, whether it's this year or other years. But something that you remember and you look back and say, like, yeah, that's what we're looking forward to every year. That's kind of a goal every year. And then obviously making it to Omaha.
All right, no question about that and how magical that would be. Matt, for you carry, I don't know, maybe an additional amount of pressure, right? Like you are thought of as one of the top prospects in all of baseball going towards the MLB draft this season. How, multiple goals, right? Like how do you handle both wanting to help the team win versus wanting to show everything that you can show, knowing you're also perhaps just a few weeks away from your life completely changing?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes just kind of focusing on the team aspect can allow the individual stuff to kind of take place on its own. And it really helps, being able to be a good teammate, to play the game and lock in on the game and enjoy playing the game. All those things kind of let everything else happen and work themselves out. So, for me, being able to focus on the team and stuff like that and winning, you don't really need it to balance out the other thing because then everything else kind of takes care of itself.
You've been such a productive player throughout your career. Is there something that even this season you feel like you've done better? I know your OPS has been nuts, right? And I know the power but is there something that you're even more proud of or that you feel has developed even more for you, considering, the standard was already pretty high for you coming into this year?
Yeah, for me, like the walking more than I'm striking out and having a better on-base percentage is something that's absolutely huge for me. Something I put a lot of value in, something I've never done before. Obviously, people who know baseball know on-base percentage is an extremely important statistic, maybe even more important than average. So, having that high on-base percentage, being able to walk, taking the walks when they give it to you, to me, that's really, really important. It's something that I focus on a lot.
What did it take for you? Like, as you point out, by the way, Matt's on-base percentage is over 460 right now. It's just bonkers what he's doing. What did it take for you to say, hey, I know I'm a hitter, and it's been obvious that you've been a hitter since you arrived, but I have to be willing to say I can't just, like, what did it take for you? Was it something that someone said to you, or I know how important Matt Swope is to literally every human that's ever been around Maryland baseball. Like, what did it take for you to make that a priority?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a maturity thing. Being able to mature, being able to take, my swings when I'm getting the pitches, and if I'm not, just being able to work that walk, being patient, understanding kind of what the game gives to you and what you're given in a certain count or game or whatever it may be. But I like to walk. I've always wanted to walk, but being able to be mature enough to actually work those walks and take those pitches in certain counts, that's where this year has been a little bit different than others.
Look, man, it's paying dividends. There's no freaking question about that. It's unbelievable what it is that you're doing. I'm wondering if you could have fun with me for just a second, because we are up here in Baltimore, right? And the Orioles hold the 17th pick in this draft. And I'm just wondering, given where you're from, how awkward would it be for some of your friends and family if in a couple of months you were announced as the 17th pick by the Baltimore Orioles, knowing, I'm assuming, that there's an awful lot of Boston Red Sox fans that exist within your life? How much maybe uncomfortability would there be if it played out that way?
I obviously would love to play for the Red Sox, as you mentioned that. But in the end, I know that all my friends and family, they'd be obviously very happy. And you have to, and you know that. But at the same time, I think everyone would prefer that I play for the Red Sox. So.
I appreciate the diplomatic way that you're handling that, because I feel like if it was the other way around, a kid from Baltimore was being drafted by the Red Sox, all the family members would just be like, yeah, dude, it's over. Like, that's the like, we're just going to have to hate you moving forward. Matt, this is my first opportunity to catch up with you. I wondered if you could tell me the story of why it was Maryland for you to begin with. Like, I know there had been some success at Maryland. It's not like you arrived at a place that there was no hope for having some success, but there had been a little bit of a dip there. Why was Maryland the spot for you to begin with?
Yeah, Maryland was kind of one of the schools that showed a lot of interest in me. You know, I had a few schools that were interested, Maryland, Northeastern, a couple others, but, you know, they kind of showed the most interest. And, you know, Maryland being a little more southern than where I'm from, and also having, you know, like you said, they have, but they might not have a huge track record, but they've had some success. They have obviously great coaches, as you mentioned. So, you know, once I started to get to know Maryland a little more, to me, it was really a no-brainer to say, hey, you know, I get to go to these young coaching staff, this great hitting coach, all of this stuff, and go play in a Power 5 conference. And, you know, for me, that was a no-brainer.
I don't want to take anything away from, like, I feel like I end up talking to guys about Swope all the time. I don't want to take anything away from Coach Vaughn, because obviously he's a very accomplished coach. He's doing a hell of a job. But what is it about Matt Swope? Because, like, I will talk to somebody like, say, Lamont Wade, and he'll be like, dude, I owe everything to that guy. What is it about him that guys love and makes him so impactful in your careers and getting you to that next level?
Yeah, obviously his drive to be a great hitting coach, you know, I think that starts everything. He's got a drive to learn, a drive to understand how each hitter swings individually. And I think that's kind of helped him to figure out what, you know, recently that's been his MO is these motor preferences. That's kind of how the body moves. And you can kind of think of it as another form of biomechanics if you're not familiar. But, you know, just his drive to understand the player, to make the player the best they can be, to have an individualized plan for each player. I think that's what makes him so unique. You can kind of fall into the trap in certain colleges where everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And you won't find that here. You'll find a plan that's very specific to you, that's very specific for your development. And I think that's, you know, hugely important.
All right, give me right now the biggest thing, the difference between where this team is right now and where you need to be in order to make that historic run and bring Maryland to Omaha for the first time ever. What is the biggest difference right now between where this team is and where you want it to be?
Yeah, I would say two things. Number one, you know, having a great week. This week is huge for the momentum for the rest of the year. So I think this week is vital for us. And secondly, I think, you know, there's some guys in our bullpen that, you know, need to step up and have those roles, because you get into regionals, super regionals, and Omaha, you're throwing everything you got.
Yep.
And both teams are. So, you know, you got to have guys that step up and kind of find their role. And, you know, if that happens and, you know, we have a good week and we have guys that step up, I think we're in good shape.
Matt Shaw. I was trying to peruse. Are you on social media? Like, I kept trying to look. Are you a social media guy at all?
No, I don't have any.
Good for you, man. Has it always been that way, or did you sort of dump it at some point?
Yeah, I dumped it probably now like two years ago.
Just like sort of I want to stay focused, or what was that decision all about?
Yeah, I mean, focus is one thing. It was kind of just like, to me, it kind of felt a little bit pointless. Like I just really wasn't interested in it. So I was like, you know what? It's really not worth it. And so I just I dumped it.
I have never heard a more truthful statement in my life than social media is really kind of pointless. I am so jealous of you and the ability to just block it all out and say, I don't care. I've got bigger things at stake. Is there anything at all that we can plug for you? Do anything NIL-wise, anything like that we can give you a plug for?
You know, I honestly haven't been super interested in NIL either, but I know, you know, it is pretty important for college sports now. And, you know, I'm nothing against it. I think it's like awesome what it is and what it's all about. But right now, you know, with all the baseball I'm playing and you know, how things are going and hopefully taking that next step into professional baseball.
Yep.
My focus with NIL, I don't find it as to be an extremely important part of who I am or what I'm doing. So.
Dude, you're this is great, man. I love the fact that you just seen it. Was it always like? Did you always just love baseball the same way? Did you always know it was baseball, and like, did you always just love being a competitor like this?
Oh yeah. Baseball was always the one.
That's cool.
Baseball
man.
was. Yeah.
That's really cool, Matt Shaw. It's fascinating chatting with you, dude. It's awesome to watch you play, man. It's incredible. And not only we're going to wish you luck this week, as you mentioned, with this huge week starting tonight against UMBC and the rest of the season, but we wouldn't mind it if it happened to work out and you can buddy back up with Costas here in the Orioles system down the road. That would be a really cool thing. Congratulations on all the success you've had. Thank you for taking a few minutes for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's good to talk, and I love talking about baseball.
It's Matt Shaw, Maryland baseball, again, top 20 prospect right now in the 2023 MLB draft, and they're getting ready for UMBC tonight, 6:30. Over in Catonsville, a chance to check out the Terps, who are very much expected to be back in the NCAA tournament this year. Not tracking quite the same way in order to be able to host, but as he pointed out, a big weekend ahead with Indiana, so a chance to maybe change that a little bit moving forward. Appreciate him taking the time for us this morning. AJ Michaels, heating, plumbing, home performance, AC, all of it. They'll improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. How's Dylan Brooks doing today? How's old DB?
Not good.
No, not a good day for old Dylan.
He's hiding from you.
It's like
people like you.
It's like everyone on the planet immediately knew. Like, I've never seen anything that the entire planet shook their head at, like, oh, dude, this is a bad idea.
He got 48 special LeBron last night.
Oh, my God.
The points didn't match, but in that fourth quarter, it was like, just give it to LeBron. Everyone get out the way.
Dude, I can't believe they still let him defend him. In overtime, with the game on the line, they're still sending Dylan Brooks over towards LeBron James. Like, yo, maybe anything else. Maybe let Desmond Bain have a shot.
I think that was Desmond Bain should have been the option. He had 36 last night. He was the hot hand. Let him use his hot hand on defense.
God.
He's a young guy. If they're worried about like him spending his energy on defense, it's the playoffs. You're about to go down 3-1. Gotta put pride aside.
Brutal. I mean, I don't know. Dylan Brooks is probably like, yo, I'm very wealthy. Like, I'm fine. All's good here.
He's got his chain that says DB on it.
But it's got to be tough right now. You are getting cooked by the world. It's one thing to get cooked by LeBron James, right? Like, he's LeBron James. You know what I mean? You're getting cooked by the planet.
This is what he can't be too upset. I mean, this is what he asked for. This is...
Well, I mean, I don't know if he can be upset, but it's still... And again, I'm sure his life is fine. Right. Like, I'm sure Dylan Brooks... I don't know. I imagine. Think about how much money Dylan Brooks has made in his career comparison to like Michael Jordan, like just from sheer basketball standpoint, right? Like
they're comparing this to like when LeBron was on the Cavs and they had those rivalries with the Wizards and Deshaun Stevenson was.
There was never a rivalry with the Wizards.
No,
it was not.
But all right. My point being, there's no rivalry with the Grizzlies either. Like,
yes, that's correct. It doesn't exist. Like, it's hammer and nail.
It's that stir it up. Get some views.
How much money do you think Dylan Brooks has made in his career just playing basketball?
How long has he been in the league now? Like,
can we get
4 years?
I think it's been 6, right?
6. Okay, he's older than a. Let's go with.
You can double check that, but I think it's been like that.
Let's go with NBA. What's like the minimum or average for an NBA contract? It's definitely good. I'll go with 50 million.
It's a little bit. You're overshooting it by a bit.
I was going to say
36.
I was going to say 44.
38 million.
Okay.
38 million. For the entirety of his career, Michael Jordan made $86 million in the NBA.
Jeez.
For the entirety of his career.
Drafted in 2017. Second round pick though. He was a college star, which is like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was nice. He was a very nice player. Look, man, I'm not trying to knock Dylan Brooks, but, dude, this is...
Well, he deserves it.
Yeah, like, you could have just been cool. Like, and the funny thing, too, is that until a week ago, the thought on Dylan Brooks is like, yo, he's a nice little player, right? Like, this thought is... Came from being a second-round pick, a really good defender, right? Like, overwhelmingly positive feelings about Dylan Brooks until 1 week ago. and then the world came after you. And then there was nobody that was a Dylan Brooks fan at that point. Rough. Dude, when he airballed that 3 in the first half, you're like, oh, this boy is shook. Shook. Now, he actually played fairly well. He actually had a pretty good game as it went on. But in the most important moments, he was getting his ass beat. Imagine, by the way, if that shot had counted at the end of regulation. Like, imagine if, on top of everything else in his career, LeBron James would also have that. It would have deprived of us as him kicking Dylan Brooks' ass in overtime, but still, Jesus Christ. Yeah. And then Jimmy Butler last night, obviously, 56
The kids are
points.
using the thing that you just came up with. They're calling him Himmy
They're
Butler.
calling him him?
Yeah, they're calling him Himmy Butler.
I can't believe it already moved that quickly. I can't believe it already was passed around the world that quickly. Playoff Jimmy, they call him. 56 points last night.
How close would he be to Wade if he brought a chip to Miami?
I don't know. Dwayne Wade is a revered, and he wasn't a lifer because he did technically end up going elsewhere, but he started there. He was a draft pick. I don't think you can compare to Dwayne Wade in Miami. I don't think that will come. But yeah, I mean, he's certainly carving out a place for himself. I think the crazy part is that you suggested that a team that was an 8 seed could win a championship, which is bonkers. But it's funny because I was talking to Kelsey Nicole Nelson from Bally Sports on the radio show the other day, and she was like, look, I don't think it's impossible if Jimmy Butler plays like this. And what you're really talking about is just how open you believe this playoffs to be, that it's hard to dismiss much of anyone who advances out of the first round.
But we were told, all season, the Bucks were the team that were going to win playoff games without their star player. They were the best set-up team. They had the best roster.
Well, they got him back last night, and they still lost.
And then they just got their doors blown open.
Well, they didn't they were up double digits in the second half of the game. It's just that Miami started clicking right when they needed to and took it. By the way, I also don't think that series is over. I'm going to say the same thing. I know it looks bleak because there's not a ton of teams that have come back from 3-1, but it's not a complete story. Only one of those losses is with Giannis on the floor. I think that there is still more story to be told in that series, particularly because they get to go home for Game 5. All they've got to do is win one game on the road, and that changes everything. I don't think that series is over. I mean, if Jimmy Butler's going to score 56 points every game, then
But I mean, who's to say Giannis isn't going to go out and match that
100%.
next game,
And I guess it also depends on, does he get his espresso grinder again when he gets back to Milwaukee, or
They should be hiding them. Everyone in Milwaukee should be banding together to hide all the espresso machines.
Tonight, the Nuggets get another shot to close out the Timberwolves. The Suns can try to close out the Clippers, and I don't know, maybe look impressive in the process. Is Kawhi playing tonight?
No. This is Game 5.
Well,
He
then
is
it's
out.
not really
Kawhi is
nothing
out.
that they do tonight is going to sell me at all.
We were trying to say it's
Minus
load
12 and a half.
management. Come on now. They're not
For
that
an elimination
stupid.
game.
They're not that. They're not
Yeah,
Load
that
Kawhi's just
management.
not right.
Yeah, all right. We got this one in Phoenix, so we just want to make sure we rest him up for
But
Game
even the
6.
last one, people were trying to say, how are the
No.
Clippers load managing him? It's like they're not.
No, he's not playing.
Knee sprain.
Yeah, Boston
Happens.
can close out Atlanta tonight as well. So 3 teams all with a chance to move on this evening. When we come back in, we will get a tidbit. We'll get two-bit or wind down for a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? AJ Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
PressBoxOnline.com/offers is the place to go. You can sign up right now and get 5 second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. But the only way to take advantage of it is to go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers and claim the incentive. Again, that's PressBoxOnline.com/offers. We are winding down for a Tuesday edition of the program. I'm trying to think if there was anything that happened that we didn't cover. We covered my dumb bet on Will Levis. I'll make more dumb bets before Thursday night, by the way. I can't believe I got duped into that. The numbers start moving. I'm like, somebody knows something. Race over, try to get a bet in. By the way, and that worked for me last year. Like
Are you gonna bet Peter?
In the hours leading up to the draft, there were some pretty. Who was the cornerback? Like everybody said, Stingley to Houston last year, and there was something else that became clear in the hours leading up to the draft. So when I arrived at the casino for the event that we were doing, I went right over and happily took my money, right? But, like, that was based on something a little bit stronger than a Reddit post from some rando.
Now you learn. Now you know. You gotta.
I just wanted to make my move before the odds crashed even further.
Take,
I was like, they're coming. By the way, they came really far down. I'm trying to remember where they came to. Like, I saw it this morning.
Are you going to take the Paris Johnson as the first tackle off the board bet?
But was there movement?
Well, because the Steelers apparently, I think, Kenny Pickett really likes Paris Johnson. The Steelers are thinking about jumping up now.
But was there movement in the markets?
Not a ton of it. But since he's still at plus money, that's why you got to get on it now.
No. When something
right.
When something's solid, the markets move. Hang on a second. It was okay. This is from Rovell. On the post from Reddit poster, Sale Agreeable 2834. The NFL draft market has been flipped on its head. Will Levis started last night at 50-1 to be taken number one overall. This morning got to 20-1. An hour ago 10-1, and now 4-1. Went from 50-1 to 4-1, all because of a Reddit post from Sale Agreeable 2834.
Sale Agreeable.
I am an idiot. I am an idiot.
The power he has over man.
God, man, I feel so very stupid about that. I tweeted about this this morning. The Big Ten announced the basketball opponents for next season. And Maryland, the only teams that will not, the teams that won't come to College Park next year are Minnesota, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. The only places they won't visit are Purdue, which seems like good news if Zach Edey ends up returning, Nebraska, and Michigan. And I just wondering out loud, because one of the things we had heard is that there is not bad blood between Hunter Dickinson and Michigan. In fact, there are still some people that believe that Hunter Dickinson, this could all be one long ploy to try to get Michigan to pony up some more money for him. That's where we are, dude. That's where we are.
Smart.
Yeah, right.
Hey,
I mean,
use your
and I'm at
leverage, bro.
Stevenson.
He just gets to tour the country.
Hey, how's that going for you? Did you call over to York to see if maybe
Pennies
York
and dimes.
like see if maybe
Pennies and
Franklin and
dimes.
Marshall wanted to offer you a little bit more? Did you make that phone call? Hey, bro, man, I'm not gonna knock somebody who tries to take advantage of.
Goucher got into the 3 figures. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Ooh.
When you say 3 figures, I mean they
Like
sent like
$10,
3 shadowy
like
figures over to your
$1.10.
window.
Yeah.
Right. So Michigan only comes to College Park. There's no away game at Michigan, and I just wonder if, again, there were rumors that he was uncomfortable with the idea of having to face, because he likes Juwan Howard. Like there were rumors that was part of the issue with him is that he didn't want to have to go up against him. I do wonder if it helps Hunter Dickinson at all that he wouldn't have to go back to Ann Arbor next season. Wouldn't have to walk into that building and deal with like the awkwardness and the buildup of the week and all of that, and whether the fans were going to boo or cheer or things along
Well,
those
if that's
lines.
playing a role, I don't want a weak-minded player like that.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Griffin. Nailed it. That's why he's going to go to Towson. You got it. Well, no, because they got Charles Thompson,
Right.
so you can't do it that
We're
way.
committed to him.
Right. I just wonder if that's the type of thing that he says, all right, well, I'm not saying that's what makes the decision, but if it helps in any sort of way, if he just doesn't want to go through that. Like, he's just not interested in the awkwardness of a return trip to Ann Arbor, and now knows he doesn't have to worry about a return trip to Ann Arbor. Just, speaking out loud, that's all. Don't have an answer on that question. Could not possibly tell you, but I wonder if that's good news today for Maryland as they're trying to land Hunter Dickinson, that they can say to him, hey, by the way, you don't have to worry about it. Or maybe we find out he was lying the whole time, wanted to go back and kick Juwan Howard's ass, and now he's disappointed that he wouldn't get the opportunity to. I don't know. He would still get a chance to play him in College Park, however. So if that were the case, you'd think that they would be good there. Hey, if you have not signed up yet, still get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests. PressBox is giving you the chance to check out all of Maryland's minor league parks this season. 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, an Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25, and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. Must be 18 or older to enter, and the sweepstakes ends June 14th. Get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contests right now to sign up. And by the way, no, Dave, we're not going to do a Dickinson meter. We're not going to do
The huntometer.
Oh, maybe we should have just made that. We should have monopolized. Like, we should have
All
just
the
done
meters.
all of the meters, right? Like,
All right, Lamar meter's out of the
meter.
way.
Now we do the
Slide
Dickinson
that one to the
meter,
side.
and now we do
Right behind it is the Hunter Dickinson meter.
the Corbin Burns meter, something like that. Like, I'm not opposed to being the monopolizing the meter market moving forward. You could call us the meter maids moving forward here. I don't know. We will see how that goes. But I don't think we're going to do a Dickinson meter. I don't think that'll happen. Tidbit is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
This one comes from Sarah Langs on Twitter on Sunday.
Slangs, they call her.
Slangs on Sports.
Yes.
Yeah. Shane McClanahan had 32 swings and misses on Sunday on 88 pitches. Which
Damn.
Is, by far the most in an outing of 90 or fewer.
It's Baltimore's
pitches.
own Shane McClanahan.
That is correct. Since 2008, which is when the pitch tracking era began, and prior to that, the fewest, so 90 or fewer pitches and most swings and misses was 25. 4 guys did it. Do you want to try to name?
It was when? 95?
No. Since 2008.
Since 2008.
Yes. There are
4
guys.
different guys. Okay.
Got
it's
25,
not all.
got 25
okay, got
swings
it,
and misses.
Got it.
Shane McClanahan had 32, which is now the most.
Since 2008, you say.
Yes.
Clayton Kershaw.
Not Clayton Kershaw.
Max Scherzer.
Not Max Scherzer. Get the one easy one.
What do you mean the one easy one? Those I just
The
named
other
Max
3
Scherzer
well,
and
those
Clayton
two-
Kershaw.
Those two aren't on there.
Justin Verlander.
No.
Dog, I mean, when you say there's one easy
Well,
one,
yeah,
and I
you
named the
should know.
3 most prominent pitchers
You missed
of
one.
the era, I missed
I'm blanking on all of them.
Felix Hernandez.
No.
All I can think is that dude for the Mets, DeGrom.
There you go.
You think DeGrom is more prominent than those other guys
I mean,
are?
maybe today.
Stop.
Hey.
Jacob
We're
DeGrom.
just saying things.
And then the other 3, one of them is a current Oriole, one of them is a former
said-
Oriole.
Said get the obvious one. One is a current Oriole?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
I looked immediately at you like,
Who's our best
who would that
starter?
be?
Kyle Gibson?
Kyle Gibson had 25
He
swings
doesn't
and
strike
misses.
anybody out.
Well, he got swings and misses, though, in 90 or fewer pitches once. And then Lance Lynn and former Oriole.
Former Oriole Ubaldo Jimenez.
No.
Former Oriole Jake Arrieta.
No.
Former Oriole.
Still active pitcher.
Still an active. Eduardo Rodriguez was never
No.
actually an Oriole. Former Oriole, still in. Kevin Gausman.
Kevin Gausman, yes, also 25 swings and misses. Jimmy Butler had 56 points in the 15-point comeback against the Bucks last night. Most points in a 15-point comeback since Michael Jordan, Game 3 of 1992.
How about that?
Tied for the most points in a comeback. They both
That's
scored
the Cavs
56.
series, right?
92. No, it was versus
No,
the Heat.
yeah.
It was versus the Heat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
you think of the ELO?
Yeah.
I think that was.
I
that
know he
90?
scored like 50-something that game.
Yeah, right.
Also tied for the fourth most points scored in playoff history. You can name the three guys that have scored more.
Actually,
LeBron.
History. No, not LeBron.
More.
Yeah,
I actually
more.
don't know the answer to
LeBron-
this question for what it's worth.
Not a ton of, not crazy high scoring.
Yeah, about 40s.
It was 89 for the ELO game, by the way.
More than 56.
Okay, let's just. I mean,
Wilt.
Michael Jordan.
Yes, Michael Jordan has the most. He has the playoff record, 63 points.
Was that New York?
That was in 86.
Oh, no,
it was
that's
in-
not what I'm thinking
yeah,
of.
It was in Boston.
Boston, yeah.
One more active player has more.
An active player has
Yeah.
more?
Damian Lillard.
Not Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard had 55 in 2021.
Active player has more.
James
Harden. That's the problem. Like, I'm going to
Not-
go.
not James Harden.
I'm going through all the lists of the possibilities, and I'm not coming up with it. So I'll be just saying, it's not Steph Curry.
It is not Steph Curry.
It's not Kevin Durant.
Not Kevin
Russell
Durant.
Westbrook.
Not Russell Westbrook.
It's not James Harden.
It is not James Harden.
It's not Damian Lillard.
No.
Oh, Kawhi.
Not Kawhi.
Luka Doncic.
Not Luka. Did it in the playoff bubble.
Oh, for F's sake!
Jamal Murray.
Then it
That
doesn't count.
It's not Jamal Murray.
Oh.
No, I mean,
How
the
would it
playoff
doesn't
bubble's
count?
not a
What do you mean
thing.
it doesn't count?
Oh, for F's sake! Anybody could have done.
57 in August.
It could be any. It could be
August
Sean
17th.
Livingston. Who the hell knows?
Just say 57 in August.
And didn't they let like
What?
12 teams into the playoffs that year?
No, it was still 8. It was, but they let like
That was the induction
They
of
let
the
it-
play-in, I think.
Yeah. Was that the induction of the play?
No, I think they let anybody who was
And
still
then-
in
Yeah, anyone who was
competition
still
for
in
the playoffs go.
I believe
Because then the Suns went like 8-0 and still missed the quote-unquote
Yeah, I
playoffs.
remember the Wizards
Right.
were like 15 games under 500.
Stupid.
And they were in the bubble.
So
Yeah.
stupid. You're
Wizards-
giving me
Wizards
something
were
from,
right there. They almost
from
made
the
it. Almost made
bubble.
it.
This is what you presented to us, was the bubble.
I'll use my next tidbit.
Trey Young.
No, it was do you want me to give it to you?
Sure.
He's on the Cavs now.
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell.
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell at 57. Elgin
Sure.
Baylor had 61 in 1962.
Yeah,
Bubble.
we were getting
The bubble. Like it's a
Those are your
thing.
top 3 playoff point totals.
God.
And then since you mentioned it, August 8th, 2010, last time the Orioles did not strike out in a game. You want to try to name the lineup?
In 2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a fun lineup.
Adam Jones.
Adam Jones was batting 5th, playing center field, and did not strike out.
Nick Markakis.
Nick Markakis batting 3rd, playing right field.
Brian Roberts.
Brian Roberts batting leadoff, playing second base.
You want to put the numbers next to it?
No, I don't
Maybe?
care. I just need names. Boy. Boy. What you said? What you said? It was
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
So JJ Hardy wouldn't have been here yet.
No, it was not. The shortstop is hilarious.
Freddie Bynum.
No,
Fahey.
no,
Oh, God. Davy Cruz.
no, not Davy Cruz.
It was a different year. That was way before.
I mean, this
that.
guy played for like 12 teams.
Like 12 teams. All right, hang on. Weeders.
The catcher was not Wieters.
I don't think there's any chance I'm gonna get it then.
Three-letter last name.
Oh, Jake Fox.
Jake Fox was
Okay.
catching and did not strike out. He went 0 for 4, but didn't strike
He
out.
hit like 1,000 home runs in spring training, and everybody was like, "Oh, Jake Fox is a thing." Wanking motion. Is this a Felix PA by chance?
It is a Felix PA game. Left fielder Felix PA batting 6th, right behind Adam Jones. Adam Jones' protection right there.
Nolan Reimold. Oh, no, we've got all the outfield. Well, Nolan Reimold. Maybe he was DHing.
Not Nolan Reimold. There was another outfielder, though, that was DHing.
There's another outfielder that was DHing. Luke Scott?
Not Luke
He wasn't
Scott.
really an outfielder.
Yeah.
I mean,
he played left field, I think.
I don't know.
He was not playing first base either. Luke Scott wasn't playing first base, so. Do you want to give you the DH?
Can you help me get there?
He was on the Cardinals, right?
He was on the Cardinals.
He was on the Cubs before the Orioles. If he finished his career with the Cardinals, that's why. Played 2 seasons, or no? Wait, what was
I don't think I'm coming up with
Corey
it.
Patterson.
Oh, Corey Patterson
Was a designated hitter batting.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking of Jay Payton, but I thought he was before that. Corey Patterson's a good one. All right,
First baseman.
You
should be able to get.
I should be able to get. You say?
I think he went to the Rockies after the Orioles.
Went to the Rockies. Garrett Atkins.
Not Garrett Atkins.
He was the other way around. He came from the Rockies to the Orioles. Ty Wigginton. Was an all-star. Was an all-star as a Baltimore Oriole.
First base, batting 4th. Did not strike out in this game.
I need a shortstop.
You need a shortstop and a third baseman.
Third baseman.
Third baseman's gonna be tough.
Like, these were all easy. Was this the year that Tejada came back?
No, this was not the year Tejada came back. This guy only played 3 years in Major League Baseball.
Oh, good.
2 of them were with the Orioles.
Oh, good. 3 years in Major League Baseball. 2 of them were with the Orioles. All right, I don't.
Josh Bell.
Oh, Josh Bell. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Josh Bell was in a significant trade. What trade was Josh Bell in?
He played with Arizona. Was his final season. Who did we trade to Arizona?
I thought it might have been in a trade with the Dodgers for some reason, because it could have been one way or the other. Josh Bell.
Oh,
Juan Soto.
Was it what?
No.
Padres land.
Oh,
no, you're thinking of a different Josh Bell. Yes, you're thinking of a different Josh Bell. He was on July 30th. He was traded to the Baltimore Orioles with Steve Johnson in exchange for George Sherrill, who had been an all-star with the Orioles, and so I was correct about that. And Steve Johnson's a buddy of mine, so it's not really like Steve Johnson actually ended up being a helpful piece on the 2012 Orioles team that made the playoffs. So it worked out, but probably not what you thought you were getting. Josh Bell was the prize of the George Sherrill trade, and didn't work out that way.
The shortstop was longest tenure was with the Dodgers. He played 4 seasons. Yes, 5 seasons, 4.5 seasons with the Dodgers. He was an all-star in 2005. And then, of course, came to the Orioles in 2009. Played here for 3 years.
I don't know.
Starts with a C, his first name.
Oh, it's Cesar Torres.
Cesar Torres was the shortstop in this game, and he did not strike out. Jeremy Guthrie was on the mound, and Mark Burley was throwing for the White Sox.
Damn.
Who did not record a strikeout.
All right, that one was good. That one was good. Much better than the bubble. Dude, it's storied playoff history.
Top 3. He's
you know what the worst part about the bubble if the bubble had just happened at a normal time of the year, we would almost still be able to give it. It happened during football season. No one gave a rat. Even within the pandemic, when we needed something
before the football season started. So that's why you should.
No, we just didn't bother to. We didn't bother to start caring. We never bothered to start caring because by the time they finally got around to it, we were on to other things.
Yeah.
Baseball had started. Like we never cared about what was going on inside the bubble, except for me watching the Phoenix Suns and feeling some amount of hope that they weren't going to be garbage. That was the only feeling that I had. All right, very good. Tubular is brought to you by A.J. Michaels, expert and award-winning. A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com. Here's what's coming up tonight, totally tubular-wise. The Orioles do indeed continue their series with the Red Sox. Another 6:30 game. Kyle Bradish on the mound against Corey Kluber on Masson. Maryland baseball, as we mentioned, is at UMBC at 6 o'clock. If you can't get there, you could watch it at AmericaEast.tv. Masson 2, Nationals Mets at 7, MLB Network Yankees Twins at 7:30, ESPN Plus for Cardinals Giants at 9:45, and it'll be joined in progress on MLB Network as well. As we mentioned, 3 teams with a chance to close out in the NBA tonight on TNT. The Celtics host the Hawks, Game 5 at 7:30. The Suns host the Clippers, Game 5 at 10. NBA TV, Nuggets hosting the Timberwolves. That Game 5 is at 9. ESPN, Islanders Hurricanes Game 5 at 7. Kings Oilers Game 5 at 9:30. TBS Wild Stars Game 5 at 8. USA Network for Leicester against Leeds United at 3. And NXT Spring Breakin' at 8. Oh, you know what? I wanted to give you the sports-related trivia from John Proctor Trivia last night. So these were...
Did you get the politics question right?
There really weren't any, and I was quite
Okay.
disappointed by that.
That's good, I guess.
It was not a night for me. It was like a lot of science questions, and I don't do well with that. That is a struggle. We finished in 3rd last night because we took a swing on the final we didn't need to take a swing on. The final was name the only, while multiple solo artists have done it, name the only musical group to have ever won multiple Album of the Year Grammy Awards.
One Direction.
Okay? They've never won one, for the record.
Okay.
I was going on the same route as I was going to say the Black Eyed Peas.
They've also never won one, so yeah. Boy, it is really disturbing to me. That's what the Beatles would be a good. That would be a far better guess.
That's the one I initially.
They only won one. Sgt. Pepper's. I guessed Steely Dan, and the reason I guessed that is because famously they won the year that Eminem was supposed to win for the Marshall Mathers LP. And it was quite controversial. Steely Dan won for some album that no one has ever heard of. So I was like, well, boy, there's a real chance like that they won another one at some point. Like, they won one that they never should have won. Like, there's a real chance they won another one at some point. So that was my guess. But I tried to talk the guys out of it afterwards. I was like, but there's no way the only group ever that won is Steely Dan. So we were between Steely Dan, Fleetwood Mac, and U2. And the answer was U2. U2 was the answer, and we got that one wrong.
Not NSYNC.
No, NSYNC never won a. You clearly
Boyz
have
II
no
Men.
idea who wins Grammy Awards.
No, I don't.
You don't know who wins
Macklemore
Grammy
won a
Awards.
Grammy.
Sadly, yes, he won Best Hip Hop the same year that Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City came out, and that, as you would imagine, went over really well. Went over really, really well when that was the case. Do you know who was the huge underdog that beat Mike Tyson in Tokyo?
Spinks or Douglas?
Which one?
Douglas.
Yes, it was indeed Buster Douglas is the exact answer. Who won last year's Kentucky Derby?
A horse.
Can I have another? California Dreamin'.
Neither one of them is even named a horse.
Secretariat.
You somehow took I'll Have Another and California Chrome and somehow redid those. Rich Strike.
Rich Strike. That was my next guess. Yeah.
Was the one.
I heard that, yeah.
What golfer known more for their off-the-course antics won the 1991 PGA Championship?
Happy Gilmore.
Yes, Happy Gilmore is correct. You got it. When you're right, you're right.
Shooter McGavin. I'm done.
Charles having fun. I'll go with Jack Nicholson. No,
Jack Nicholson, when he wasn't busy playing Batman, came over.
Right.
That one, Jack, star of stage and screen, Jack Nicholson, who's also known for his antics off the course, won the 1991 PGA Championship. When you're right, you're right. I don't know what else to say. We'll just move on.
I wasn't born.
I didn't even know he was a golfer.
He's definitely not a golfer.
Okay.
He botched Jack Nicklaus, who's very much a golfer, whereas Jack Nicholson is an actor.
That's what I said, Jack Nicklaus.
No, you didn't.
Fine, Arnold Palmer.
Yes, who also is very much known for his off-the-course antics. Arnold Palmer was always stirring up S, man. Arnold Palmer was going out. He was actually in three different. He was actually in 3 different gangs. Arnold Palmer. It was very surprising.
Who's the one who would wear like the gator skin hat and had like the beach blonde hair?
Bleach blonde hair and gator skin hat. I'm not really
He always
sure.
wore.
You're thinking of Greg Norman?
I think
That's
so.
I think who you're thinking of.
Yeah.
There's one golfer really known for off-the-course antics. That would be John Daly, who won the 1991 PGA Championship. I mean, all right. Anyway, who won the? Hang on a second. Let me make sure I have the correct year right. Who won the?
Yeah, because that's going to help us.
Yeah. These are all about huge.
I was thinking
these are all about
Norman
huge underdogs.
And Daly at the same time.
These are all. The category was about underdogs. Who won the 2016 Premier League, which would have paid out at something like 5,000 to 1 if you had bet it before the season. That was Leicester. I did not know that one. Thankfully, John Proctor knew that one because I knew all the other ones in the category, but I didn't know that one. And then this year, on the cover of NBA 2K23, there were multiple covers. 4 different basketball players who graced the covers of NBA 2K23. Can you name, how many of the 4 can you name?
Donovan Mitchell.
0 for 1.
I haven't bought a 2K since like 2018, so I should know the answer.
Luka.
0 for 2.
These are underdogs.
It was 23, so Michael
This is
Jordan
a different
was on the
category.
cover.
Different category.
On one of the covers.
Michael Jordan was on one of the
Good
covers.
guess.
23.
Kobe then.
0 for 3 for you.
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker was on a cover. Could have really used Charles last night.
LeBron.
0 for 4 for you.
Let me get another.
Luka.
1 or 2 for 3.
Yeah, he was probably last year or something like that.
By the way, our guesses were Luka was one of our guesses.
I said Luka too. Yeah.
I think our guesses
Did
were
you say Donovan Mitchell?
we
did,
by the
yeah,
way,
yeah.
we went 0 for 4. Our guesses were Luka, Morant, Jokic, and Embiid, I think might have been it.
Steph was on a cover.
No.
They put
Over
I think they
5.
put Rui Hachimura on an Asian version.
No.
No?
Well, if they did, it wasn't an answer.
Okay.
No.
What do we have so far?
Because they do that.
Jordan
Like
and-
they,
You got Jordan and Devin Booker.
Random. Durant.
0 for 6.
I'm trying to think of these playoffs right now.
Jason Tatum.
I'll let you get to 10. 0 for 7.
Giannis ever been on one?
I don't know, but he wasn't on last year.
not last year. It's got to be players at the same scale as Devin Booker.
He's not good, but Anthony Davis.
0 for 8.
Was
Anthony Edwards.
0 for 9. Oh, you didn't guess that. Yeah, sorry, you're still 0 for 8.
Jimmy Butler.
0 for 9.
Brandon Ingram.
That's random as hell. It's definitely not Brandon Ingram. Last
Go with
one.
Devin Booker and Michael Jordan.
Last one.
Have to. Is an active player.
LaMelo Ball.
I'm not telling you anything. You got to guess.
LaMelo.
0 for 10. It was a trick.
There's only 2.
Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi.
Oh, okay.
It was a trick. We were pretty. Nobody in the bar got 1. Everyone went 0 for 4. No one in the bar came away with 1 correct answer in that category. It was a bloodbath. It was a blood. A similar thing happened when we got a question a couple weeks ago. It was
Glad I got the 2 males.
not bad. What were the 3 most Googled searches for all of the year 2022? 3 items that were the most searched items.
Gritty.
Like that, like the mascot Gritty?
No, like
just the term Gritty?
Yeah.
No.
Terms?
Yeah, search terms.
Man, I don't know. I never use Google. I don't need it. So.
Maybe think about like what
Will
people.
Smith.
Oh, yeah,
That was a great one. I don't think it was one of our guesses, but it's a great one. Not correct.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Something about COVID.
COVID would have been a reasonable one. I think COVID might have been on our list. It was not correct.
3 most searched things.
See, 3 most searched phrases. Mm-hmm. Man, we were going to wrap up the show earlier today, and then I got into this.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson.
In the world, no.
Oh, in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
still.
the World Cup.
You would have thought that
Cutter,
was
yeah,
absolutely
Cutter.
on our list.
Where is
no,
Cutter?
No.
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 What else happened last year?
Queen Elizabeth.
That would have been, I believe that was one of ours as well. Also not the case. We also thought Ukraine would have been a pretty good one, right? Or Russia,
yeah.
or the war would have been a good one. Not on the list. We
Florida
thought
Man.
Florida Man is always a good one. We remembered there was an election last year. We discussed that and said maybe just election would be a term. No, the 3 most and it's the dumbest question in trivia history. The 3 most Googled searches last year were Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It was the dumbest of trivia and should be burned.
Should have used that for a
The
tid-bit.
person that came up should have been fired from their job immediately for that being a question that was asked
Better
at trivia.
question, yeah. Like, what are the 3 most used apps on Google?
Yeah, something like that. Whatever it is, I was so mad about it. I don't have the words. It was a chorus.
Did anyone
No one got any of them, and it was a
bar?
chorus of boos.
Because it's one of those.
I mean, a chorus.
One of those questions
of
that makes you think
boos.
back to things you either wanted to think about or not want to think about last year.
Oh,
Then we find out
so
it's like, what a letdown. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Last week when I wasn't able to go because I had a lacrosse game, one of the questions, they were really disappointed to their title in the state of Maryland. There's no chance you know any of these. I'll just run Aruna Miller.
Secretary of the Treasury.
Secretary of the Treasury.
Griffin knows who runs the Department of
No,
Transportation.
he's wrong. It's not the correct answer. You want to guess? No. Aruna Miller is currently the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland. Probably something you should know.
You knew that?
Of course I know that.
Good job.
How about Brooke Learman? What is Brooke Learman's job in the state of Maryland?
Secretary of the Treasury? Treasurer.
Just Treasurer. Okay. No. Attorney General? No. Brooke Learman is the Comptroller of the state of Maryland. Now, in fairness, I only know that because I got a bit of a personal friendship with Brooke Learman. She was very involved in the Jordan McNair Safe and Fair Play Act. She came on the show a few times, and we ended up talking a bit. It's really the only reason why I know that. So that one would have been tougher. Anthony Brown. Former
third-string quarterback.
That's right.
For the Ravens.
Former Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland. Former congressional representative.
Yeah, so now the Attorney General.
Guess?
Assistant to the Comptroller.
He is the Attorney General. Well done. Anthony Brown is the Attorney General of the state of Maryland. Well done.
Quarterback for the Ravens.
And yeah, correct. Both. He does both at the same time, which is what makes him so remarkable. And Derek Davis. To be fair, I actually didn't know this, but it was matching. So because I knew the other three, I was able to come up with this one.
Oh, the mayor has a different name than that.
Yes, definitely a different name. And these are all state jobs again that we were talking about.
He is
Derek Davis. Okay.
Oh, no, state public liaison.
I'm glad you didn't give it up. He is the treasurer of the state of Maryland.
2 for 4.
Well done. Well done. Not bad. All right. I don't know why I did that.
Better than
that
the
was
sports
fun.
questions.
That was fun. Tubular. I did tubular. You.
James Corden's continuing his his last run. Billie Eilish and Natalie Portman will be on Corden. Jimmy Kimmel's gonna have John Mulaney. John Mulaney has a new
Netflix,
Netflix
right?
special.
Yeah, I
it's
do
called
want to
Baby
watch
J.
that. Yeah.
That is out today, and Jude Law's gonna be on Fallon because he's Captain Hook in the Peter Pan movie that comes out on Disney Plus.
There's
Friday.
no chance it's good, is there?
It looks. I don't know. It's called Peter and Wendy, and it might be.
It's not
good.
gonna be good. As good as
Wendy. Good.
What do you? Who's Wendy?
I haven't seen Peter Pan forever.
Wendy's the girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking Wendy with the red hair.
Oh.
And
oh God.
And Lopez versus Lopez time slot premiere 8:30 on NBC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
Moves
sadly
from Friday nights
I'll probably miss that one.
to now Tuesday nights.
Don't think I'm gonna check that out.
Switch over to NBC.
All right. Thanks today to Matt Shaw from Maryland Baseball. Thanks also to Steve Eigenbrot from Towson. Patrick Stevens will get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Anything?
Jonathan Lamont.
Oh, yeah. Future Terp, St. Francis prospect John Lamont is going to join us tomorrow. He's playing in the Capital Classic this weekend down in D.C. along with Jamie Kaiser. And I think Braden Pierce is playing in that as well. I don't think, however, that Deshaun Harris-Smith is playing in that.
At least I didn't see him on the.
But, yeah, we'll talk to him about that. And stuff and things. Okay, stuff and things. We got to lock some things up. We got to step up our act. All right. Thanks today to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners. AJ Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Hartford Community College, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Thanks to Charles at charles.ap28. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Go Suns. Duke sucks.